Chapter 61 Revenge begins. Just when Longjing was complaining about the Sunagakur village attacking them, he didn't know that someone had sneaked over. After hearing the conversation between the two of Longjing, Dong Shenyao knew that they had met people from Sunagakur village before. Hey, you are unlucky. Dong Shenyao felt a little gloating in his heart. After all, these Omegakers had provoked him. This time Dong Shenyao was also not prepared to fight them in an open and honest manner. Just as Longjing and the two were talking, they suddenly heard a burst of air. Whoosh whoosh. Not good. Both of them are battle-hardened ninjas, so they don't need to think at all, their bodies have already evaded subconsciously. I saw Longjing and the two jump directly from the ground to escape the attack. When the two stood firm, they had time to observe what was attacking them. When the two of them saw the situation clearly, they couldn't help but exclaimed. It turned out that several kunai had been plugged into the place where the two had just sat, but it was not important. What really shocked them was that these kunai were all tied up. The detonating talismans, at this time, these detonating talismans have already burned, and they will explode in a second. After the shock, the two quickly dodged. Boom. A second later, the detonating talisman exploded directly, and a violent explosion sounded several hundred meters away. The surrounding trees were destroyed, and a puff of smoke was raised. Longjing is a special Jonin and is very powerful, so he avoided it in time and was not injured. But the fat ninja can't do it. He is just a normal Chunin, and his reaction is slower, so his arm is affected by the explosion. But only suffered some skin trauma. Longjing and the two had just escaped the explosion, and before they could find the attacker, the third wave of attacks had arrived. Doden Earth-style Earth Shuriken art. A large number of stones flew up around them, and they went straight to Longjing and attacked them. And these stones turned into the shape of shuriken in the process of flying. Don't look at these are formed of stone, but in terms of power, it is no worse than a shuriken forged by steel. In the face of these shuriken attacks, Longjing spread out his body to dodge, and he used Kunwu to resist if he couldn't dodge. The fat ninja is not as good as Longjing. He knows that he can't hide, so he can only choose defense. Ninja, Psychic Art. Bang! Fat ninja hand seal patted the ground, and suddenly a burst of smoke rose, and in the smoke, a huge figure appeared in front of the fat ninja. The next moment, a large number of shuriken bombarded this huge figure. I just heard a ding 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 dong sound, like hammering iron. I don't know what kind of psychic beast this is, but the shuriken can't break the defense when it hits it. In the end, these shuriken turned into broken stones and fell to the ground. Roar. Although these shuriken couldn't hurt it, but they would make it feel pain, causing the ninja beast that was channeled by the fat ninja to roar directly. As the psychic beast roared, a strong wind suddenly swept out, the surrounding smoke completely dissipated, and the figure of the psychic beast was completely revealed. It was a huge crocodile. There are psychic beasts. Looking at the huge body, Dong Shenyao was a little surprised. He didn't expect that this seemingly weak Omegaker would have a psychic beast. After coming to this world, Dong Shenyao realized that psychic beasts are a very rare thing, and there are not many ninjas who can have psychic beasts. Those who can become psychic beasts are not weak ninja beasts, but ninja beasts are hard to see in the ninja world, and it is difficult for ninjas to sign contracts with ninja beasts, so there are psychic beasts in the ninja world. There are not many ninjas, but every ninja with a psychic beast is considered a strong one among the same level. For example, the fat ninja's own strength is only an ordinary chunin, but if he cooperates with a psychic beast, his strength is probably not inferior to the elite chunin, or even stronger. Due to estimating the opponent's strength, Dong Shenyao's expression became solemn. At this time, he hadn't appeared yet, so it's perfectly fine if he wants to retreat. It's just that Dong Shenyao was a little unwilling. After all, he had a conflict with Longjing. How could he miss such a good opportunity to kill Longjing? Fight! Biting Kiba, Dong Shenyao made a decision. Whoosh! Dong Shenyao exerted strength under his feet, and his body instantly disappeared in place. The fat ninja hid behind the psychic beast without being attacked in the slightest, but just when he was relieved, a sense of danger came to his heart. The fat ninja believed in his intuition very much, so he jumped on the psychic beast without any hesitation. The next moment Dong Shenyao's figure appeared in the position where the fat ninja was standing. Escaped. Dong Shenyao was a little surprised, but he didn't think too much about it and went after him. At this time, the fat ninja also discovered Dong Shenyao, and when he saw that he also jumped on the psychic beast to attack himself, the fat ninja not only was not afraid, but showed a sneer on his face. Ninja technique. Rainwashing technique. Fat ninja quickly hand seal, and then both hands pressed on the body of the crocodile psychic beast. The next moment, I saw a large amount of liquid seeping out from the skin of this crocodile psychic beast, and then these liquids flowed like a river. The impact of these liquids is not weak, and there are a lot of them, so Dong Shenyao can't stand firm on the crocodile at all. In desperation, Dong Shenyao could only jump down and use other methods to attack. Seeing that Dong Shenyao was forced to retreat, the fat ninja gave the order to the psychic beast for the first time, "Attack him for me." The crocodile psychic beast turned its head and saw Dong Shenyao, and immediately flicked its tail unceremoniously, and went straight to Dong Shenyao and slammed away. This crocodile psychic beast is more than 2 feet long, and his tail alone is close to 10 feet, and it is so thick that Dong Shenyao dare not meet it. Doden Earth Style Earth Shield. The earth element shield quickly condensed and blocked in front of Dong Shenyao, and then the crocodile's tail slammed directly on the shield. After a short stagnation, the huge force directly shattered the shield. But at this time Dong Shenyao had taken the opportunity to dodge. Whoosh! Longjing's figure appeared beside the fat ninja and asked, "How is the situation?" "Fortunately, the person who attacked us has been entangled by the crocodile, but you also know the shortcomings of the crocodile, and then I will ask you, brother Longjing." The fat ninja looked at Longjing and said, "Don't worry. He can't run," Longjing said confidently. Chapter 62 What is Violence? This is. After using the earth shield to temporarily block the crocodile's tail, Dong Shenyao dodged directly. What about people? When the shield shattered, the fat ninja found that Dong Shenyao had disappeared, and immediately began to look around. At this time, Dong Shenyao was already hiding behind a big tree. However, Dong Shenyao was not idle, but turned his hands quickly to hand seal. Doden Earth Style Dusty. This ninjutsu is also created by Ta Shenyao, and it does not have any offensive power, but is similar to the technique of Kurigakur. It is used to block the enemy's sight and hide himself. It's just that this Doden Earth Style ninjutsu uses sand and smoke to obscure the enemy's sight. Countless sand and dust rose into the sky, and in an instant, a radius of dozens of meters was enveloped in smoke, and because there was a lot of fine sand mixed in, the two of Longjing could not open their eyes for a while. "A man, be careful of enemy sneak attack," Longjing reminded. "I know, there will be nothing wrong with the little crocodile," the fat ninja Kazuo said confidently. Seeing a man so confident, Longjing didn't care about him anymore, but started hand seal. He knows that he can't sit still now, so he is ready to crack the dust in front of him. Seeing that the two of Longjing were temporarily blocked from sight, Dong Shenyao didn't waste time, and directly activated the ability of Tutu Fruit, but Longjing's ninjutsu had been activated before that. Ninja technique of praying for rain. I saw a light rain suddenly falling within 20 meters of the surrounding area. Although the rain was not big, it made the surrounding sand and dust gradually dissipate. Seeing that the dust was about to dissipate, Dong Shenyao's attack had already begun. Doden Earth Style Jintiani Jinchuriki Column. Boom! Suddenly the ground shook, and the next moment, I saw a huge Jinchuriki column suddenly rise on the ground. This Jinchuriki column child is just below the crocodile psychic beast, so the crocodile psychic beast is directly supported by this Jinchuriki column child. Not good. Seeing this, the two of Longjing quickly jumped off the psychic beast, and at the same time the psychic beast struggled, trying to destroy the Jinchuriki column under him. "It's now, Shenglongba. Jinchurik column to go back," a dirt dragon suddenly appeared on the ground. The earth dragon rushed from the bottom to the top, going straight to the psychic beast. Boom! In an instant, when the psychic beast did not respond, the earth dragon had already bombarded its chin, and the huge force even knocked the huge body of the psychic beast into the air. But Tulong didn't want to let it go. This time Tulong flew directly into the air, falling from the sky and bombarding the crocodile psychic beast. Little crocodile. Seeing that his psychic beast was beaten without the ability to fight back, a man couldn't help but exclaimed. At the same time, Longjing had already discovered Dongshenyao. Ninja, the 1,000 books of rain. I saw Longjing open his mouth, and thousands of books condensed from countless waters shot out, instantly covering the space of more than 10 meters around Dongshenyao. These fine needles are densely packed like raindrops, and there is no way to avoid them. PFF'd. In an instant, countless fine needles pierced through Dong Shenyao's body. At this time, Dong Shenyao looked like a hedgehog. And just when Dong Shenyao was attacked, Tulong Yi had already bombarded the crocodile psychic beast. Boom! Under the attack of the earth dragon, the original upward trend of the crocodile psychic beast was stopped in an instant, and then quickly fell to the ground, and the earth dragon followed closely behind. Boom! In the end, with a loud noise, the crocodile psychic beast smashed directly on the ground, and for a while, the gravel flew around, and the smoke enveloped the body of the psychic beast. Even if the crocodile psychic beast was smashed from more than 10 meters in the air, it was unbearable even if the skin was thick and fleshy. When the smoke cleared, a man found his psychic beast lying in a big pit, and at the same time, he was constantly under him. There was blood flowing. Dong Shenyao's series of attacks can be described as extremely violent, directly killing a powerful psychic beast. What's the matter? Yi Nan was stunned. In his opinion, even if the psychic beast was injured, it wouldn't bleed so much. Unbeknownst to him, just as the psychic beast fell, a cone-shaped earthen bag rose directly on the ground. Although the scales of the crocodile psychic beast are powerful, it is a pity that he does not have it on his stomach. Under the huge impact, the soil cone directly pierced into the body of the crocodile psychic beast. No, it's a soil clone. Just when Longjing thought he had killed the enemy, he found that Dong Shenyao's body had turned into a pool of mud. PFF'd. Blood was left on Longjing's neck, and he touched the wound in fear. At this moment, Longjing felt a feeling of the rest of his life after a catastrophe. If he hadn't hid just now, I'm afraid he would have turned into a corpse at this time. Looking at the place where he was standing before, I saw that Dong Shenyao appeared there without knowing when. It's you. Only then did Longjing realize that the one who attacked them was the Konoha ninja who had had an argument outside the forest before. We met again, Dong Shenyao said with a smile on his face. At this time he looked like he was greeting an old friend. I wanted to find you originally, but I didn't expect you to come to your door. In that case, I'll send you to hell. Longjing had already made his move as soon as he finished speaking. I saw that Longjing was like an arrow from the string, and he approached Dong Shenyao in an instant. When a symphony of gold and iron sounded, and the two people's kunai collided. After a fight, the two drew back at the same time, and then launched an attack again. For a time, Dong Shenyao and the two fought in one place. Don't worry, little crocodile, I will definitely avenge you. After finding out that his psychic beast was dead, a man was furious, and bloodshots appeared in his eyes. Kill. With a roar, a man went straight to Dong Shenyao and killed him. Dong Shenyao was fighting with Longjing when a man's sudden insertion made Dong Shenyao a little confused. In terms of physical skills, he is stronger than Longjing, but his strength is limited. The addition of a man now gives Longjing the upper hand in an instant. Sharingan on. Dong Shenyao is no longer reserved, and directly opens Sharingan. Immediately, the speed of the two Longjing slowed down in his eyes. Sharingan. Seeing the change in Dong Shenyao's eyes, the two of Longjing were stunned. He belongs to the Uchiha clan. Obviously Longjing and the others misunderstood, but Dong Shenyao would not explain anything. The opening of Sharingan means that only one of the two parties can survive. With the opening of Sharingan, Dong Shenyao has the upper hand again. Bang! Longjing put one foot on Dong Shenyao, but the next moment Dong Shenyao turned into a wooden stake. It's a substitute technique. The two of Longjing quickly looked for Dong Shenyao. Here. Soon Longjing found that Dong Shenyao appeared behind him and wanted to attack him. It won't let you succeed. Chapter 63 Double Kill. In fact, Longjing had some regrets at this time. He regretted why he wanted to provoke Dong Shenyao in the first place, otherwise he would not have offended such a powerful enemy. Of course, what surprised Longjing even more was Dong Shenyao's strength. Even though he was young, he was stronger than him. However, Longjing knew that it was too late to regret. At this stage, either you died or I died, so Longjing would not say to show mercy and make peace. Seeing that Dong Shenyao used the avatar technique to avoid his attack, Longjing soon found that Dong Shenyao was behind him and was about to attack him. Bang! Dong Shenyao punched him, and Longjing let his fist hit him in front of him, but then Longjing reached out and hugged Dong Shenyao's arm, preventing him from leaving. One man fast. Needless to say, a man already knew what to do. Go to hell. A man looked at Dong Shenyao with a grim expression, and stabbed Kulu directly into Dong Shenyao's heart. PFF'd. Blood spurted out, but before the two of Longjing were happy, they heard a bang, and the Dong Shenyao in front of him turned into smoke and disappeared. How could this be? Longjing did not expect that it was Shadow Clone who attacked them in front of him. When? Longjing had no idea when Dong Shenyao used Shadow Clone. It can only be said that the speed of Dong Shenyao hand seal is too fast, faster than their imagination, so this result will occur. Just when Longjing and the two were attracted by Shadow Clone, Dong Shenyao's real body emerged from the ground and appeared directly behind a man. PFF'd. Kuluyu pierced the back of a man into his heart, and the blood flowed out instantly, directly dyeing Yuhi in man's clothes. After the successful sneak attack, Dong Shenyao didn't stop, and immediately walked away. A man. Longjing, leave me alone, kill him. After saying the last sentence, Yinan couldn't hold on any longer, and fell directly to the ground to accompany his psychic beast. At this moment, Longjing Kiba clenched his teeth tightly, wishing he could swallow Dong Shenyao. Kill. No nonsense. Longjing's hatred for Dong Shenyao turned into the driving force for his actions, holding Kunwu and rushing towards Dong Shenyao. At this moment Longjing realized that his speed was actually faster. But now Longjing has no time to take care of these things. He only has one thought in his mind at this time, that is to kill Dong Shenyao. Although he solved one person, Dong Shenyao did not take it easy, because he used several skills to deal with the psychic beasts, and then used some ninjutsu when fighting with Longjing and the others. Although the amount of chakra consumed by Dong Shenyao is not much due to the soil and soil fruit, it consumes a lot of physical strength. In addition, the amount of chakra consumed by Sharingan is very large. At this time, Dong Shenyao consumes a lot of stamina and chakra. It must be a quick fight. Feeling the dwindling chakra in his body, Dong Shenyao had to work hard. Dang dang dang. A burst of gold and iron symphony sounded, and the two of Dong Shenyao fought again. What's the matter? Dong Shenyao found that Longjing had increased both in speed and strength. Could it be that the potential has exploded and the strength has broken through? Dong Shenyao soon came up with a possibility. And thinking of this, Dong Shenyao's face became a little ugly. Bang, bang, bang. The attack of the two can be described as a fist to the flesh, and now the two of them will not resist at all, and let the fist to deal with it hit themselves, and they will also attack to deal with it. Soon the two of them didn't know how many punches were punched by each other. Fortunately, they are ninjas with strong physiques, so this kind of trauma cannot affect them for the time being. The practice of ninja is self-abuse, although it will leave dark wounds, but I have to admit that this kind of cultivation method can indeed make people stronger quickly, and the body becomes extremely powerful. Coupled with the protection of chakra, it is difficult for the general ninja to fight with fists and feet to cause a one-shot kill. As the battle progressed, Dong Shenyao suddenly discovered that there was a slight fluctuation in the Yi Jin Jing, which had not improved for a long time. Is it going to break through? Dong Shenyao was a little excited. Although he has a system, as long as he has enough magic points, he can quickly become stronger, but Dong Shenyao still did not ignore the Yi Jinjing. After all, the practice of ninjas is self-abuse, and the damage to the body is great. Unless you get the body of a fairy, this kind of damage is difficult to eradicate. And Yi Jinjing is the best way to temper and nourish the body. It can be used to condition the body and treat dark wounds, so Dong Shenyao has been working hard to cultivate Yi Jinjing. But unfortunately, after he reached the 4th form, his cultivation stagnated, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break through to the 5th form. But he didn't expect that this battle with Longjing would make his Yi Jinjing break through. This discovery made Dong Shenyao excited, and at the same time gave up the ability to use elementalization, and even more crazy in the battle with Longjing. As the injury continued to worsen, Dong Shenyao found that the fluctuation of the Yi Jinjing was getting bigger and bigger. Longjing gradually became unbearable. He did not expect Dong Shenyao to fight so violently. Is this kid crazy? I am for revenge, what is he for? Longjing didn't understand, because he was not Dong Shenyao, so he didn't know the future trend of this world. Dong Shenyao knew, so he knew that if he wanted to survive, he had to become strong. You can't survive without madness, only madness can make yourself survive. Dong Shenyao has practiced Yi Jinjing, so his physical ability to fight and recover is stronger than that of Longjing. At first, Longjing was able to compete with Dong Shenyao, but after dozens of rounds, Longjing couldn't take it anymore. At this time, both of them were injured, but Longjing's injury was more serious, so his speed and strength declined a lot. On the other hand, Dong Shenyao, although the combat power has also weakened, it is not as serious as Longjing. The battle can be over. Perceiving the change in Longjing, Dong Shenyao was not ready to continue the fight. The bottleneck of Yi Jinjing has been loosened, but Dong Shenyao knew that if he continued to fight, he would not be able to break through. Doden, Earth-style, swamp of the underworld. Suddenly, the ground at the foot of Longjing turned into a swamp. If it was in its heyday, Longjing could easily escape, but now it can't work, and the speed has slowed down, causing Longjing's body to sink directly into the quagmire. Rasengan. A large number of chakras gathered on Dong Shenyao's left hand and went straight to Longjing. Longjing couldn't wait to die, and hurriedly made a final struggle. Sweden, water-style, water cannonball. Longjing opened his mouth, and a huge water bomb spewed out. Boom! Rasengan smashed the water bomb directly, and the next moment, Dong Shenyao's left hand was already pressed in front of Longjing's shang. Ask for flowers, ask for a reward. Chapter 64 End of the second. Rasengan directly smashed the water bomb that Longjing spat out, and the next moment, Dong Shenyao's palm pressed directly in front of Longjing's shang. Bang! The remaining power of Rasengan bombarded Longjing directly, and the self-contained rotational force made Longjing's body turn quickly and fly backwards at the same time. In the end, Longjing flew straight for more than 10 meters and finally stopped when it hit a broken tree. PFF'd. After landing, Longjing spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly became extremely pale, like a piece of white paper. Lying on the ground, Longjing bit Kiba and wanted to stand up, but at this time he was already at the end of his force. He tried several times without success. Every time he just got up a little, he would fall down again, and his body hit the ground several times, directly aggravating his injury. Cough cough cough. After a few violent coughs, a stream of blood flowed down Longjing's mouth. Seeing Longjing still struggling there, Dong Shenyao was a little surprised. He didn't expect Longjing to survive. As expected of a special Jonin, Rasengan is still alive after hitting me. Of course, Dong Shenyao also knew that Longjing didn't die, not only because of his strong body, but also because the previous water bombs weakened some of Rasengan's power. Tattoo. Away Sharingan, Dong Shenyao stepped on the broken ground and walked towards Longjing, and the sound of footsteps was particularly evident in the silent forest. But the sound of his footsteps was like a reminder to Longjing. Longjing, do you regret it? Dong Shenyao looked down at Longjing and asked when he walked to Longjing's side. Regret. Longjing smiled miserably when he heard the words. I do have some regrets. I regret why I provoke you in the first place. If Longjing has a next life, remember not to be so arrogant. After saying that, Dong Shenyao didn't care about Longjing's reaction. He shook his hand, and suddenly a kunai shot out. At this time, Longjing was almost unable to move, and he could only wait to die in the face of Kunwu. PFF'd. In an instant, kunai sank into Longjing's heart, and then Dong Shenyao also received a notification sound from the system. It's close to 1000 God building points again, and killing people is the fastest way to become stronger. At this time, Dong Shenyao wanted to kill all those who took the test. Taking a deep breath, Dong Shenyao suppressed the killing intent in his heart. He did not want to be controlled by the killing. Although he is not afraid of killing, but he will not kill for no reason, and he will not kill for the sake of creating a god. After all, only a lunatic would kill people indiscriminately, and Dong Shenyao murdered for other purposes. For example, he killed Longjing and the others for revenge, but also for cultivation. Confirming that Longjing was dead, Dong Shenyao resisted his desire to rest, and after scavenging for the spoils, he left here quickly. After only walking 1,000 meters, Dong Shenyao found a tree hole to hide in and began to rest. In the battle just now, he not only consumed a lot, but also suffered a lot of injuries. Especially in the final battle with Longjing, it was completely an injury for injury. Fighting is really the best way to make people grow. Although he was breathing heavily, he felt the bottleneck that Yi Jinjing was about to break through, and the smile on Dong Shenyao's face couldn't be hidden. More than an hour passed in the blink of an eye. After a simple dressing, Dong Shenyao's trauma was temporarily relieved, and his physical strength also recovered. He knew that he could not wait any longer. After all, it is already afternoon, and it is not long before the end of the exam. After leaving the tree hole, Dong Shenyao's body submerged directly into the soil and quickly rushed towards the central fortress. Dong Shenyao finally returned to the central fortress before dark. Yao, you are finally back. Seeing Dong Shenyao's return, Kudo Shun and the two heaved a sigh of relief at the same time, but then they discovered the injury on Dong Shenyao's body. Yao, what's wrong with you? Seeing the concern of Kimura Fumino and the two, Dong Shenyao smiled and said, I'm fine, I just had a fight with someone. It's okay, you're already like this, don't you have to die to be okay? This time Kimura Fumino was really angry. Yao, I don't know why you practice so desperately, but I know a truth, that is, once you die, no matter how hard you try, it's useless. So Yao, don't take risks easily in the future, you can take your time to practice, you are still young, you don't need to work so hard. Kimura Fumino said earnestly. Looking at Kimura Fumino, who was very serious, Dong Shenyao sighed in his heart. He also understands what Kimura Fumino said. If he didn't know the plot, Tashinyao wouldn't be so desperate. But it is precisely because he knows the plot and understands the monster-like combat power in the later stage of Hokage, so Dong Shenyao has to work hard. Don't look at the fact that there are still several decades before the plot begins, but Dong Shenyao still feels that time is pressing. Because he not only has to face those ruthless people in the future, but also needs to face the Ninja World War. However, it is impossible for Dong Shenyao to tell Kimura Wenye and the others, so he can only comfort him. Brother Wenye, I know, don't worry, I will be careful in the future. I hope so. Kimura Fumino sighed and did not speak. After all, what he does in the end depends on Dong Shenyao himself. If Dong Shenyao doesn't want to change, then it is useless to say more. Seeing that Dong Shenyao was seriously injured, Kimura Fumino specially brought a lot of healing medicines to heal Dong Shenyao. In the blink of an eye, the night passed, and after a night of cultivation, Dong Shenyao had gotten much better. After all, Yi Jinjing was not given for nothing. He endowed Dong Shenyao with a very powerful physique. Although it was not as good as the body of a fairy, it also allowed Dong Shenyao to recover from injuries much faster than ordinary ninjas. Yoshida found Dong Shenyao and the others early in the morning, and Yoshida didn't say much when he saw Dong Shenyao returning safely. "Congratulations, you have passed the exam, now come with me." After speaking, Yoshida left the room directly. Seeing that the three of Dong Shenyao looked at each other, they followed. "Master Yoshida, where are we going?" Dong Shenyao asked as he walked beside Yoshida. "You'll know when you get there." Yoshida actually sold the key. "Teacher, can't you tell me?" Dong Shenyao looked at Yoshida with his big watery eyes, and he was actually cute. "No, who made you so bold that you didn't listen to my warning and return to the Forest of Doom? I shouldn't have told you that you can go back," Yoshida said with a cold face. "Okay." Seeing that Yoshida was actually angry, Dong Shenyao couldn't say anything. After all, Yoshida was doing it for his own good. Soon, the three of Ta Shenyao followed Yoshida to a hall. Chapter 65 tentatively closed. When the three of Dong Shenyao followed Yoshida into a wide hall, they found that there were already a lot of people here. A few Konoha ninjas stood around, and in the center of the hall were many ninjas taking exams. "Okay, we're here, you guys can go there and wait," Yoshida said, pointing to the crowd in the center of the hall. "Understood, goodbye Yoshida-sensei." Saying goodbye to Yoshida, the three of Ta Shenyao walked towards the crowd in the center of the hall. As they walked, Dong Shenyao and the three looked at the crowd in the center of the hall. Looking around, Dong Shenyao found that there were 9 people standing in the center of the hall at this time, and when Dong Shenyao and others were looking at them, these people were also looking at the three Dong Shenyao. However, when they saw that Dong Shenyao was injured, they lost interest in the three. Obviously, in their opinion, although Dong Shenyao and the others passed the exam, since someone was seriously injured, their overall strength is obviously not as good as them. Dong Shenyao and the three did not care about the attitude of these people. They stopped behind the crowd, and then began to wait. Soon more ninjas came one after another, and finally nearly 20 people gathered in the center of the hall. Just when Dong Shenyao was thinking about how many groups had passed the second exam, a chaotic footstep sounded, which immediately attracted the attention of Dong Shenyao and others. Looking up, Ta Shenyao saw Taro Toyokawa, the examiner for the second exam, walked in surrounded by many ninjas, and finally stopped more than 10 meters in front of Ta Shenyao and the others. Dongshin was dazzling and sharp, and he saw Kai Uehara among the many ninjas. Toyokawa Taro still had his trademark smile on his face, and after glancing at Ta Shenyao and the others, he said, "First of all, I want to congratulate you on passing the second test. But don't be too happy, because the answer is too early. Come down and you will have the cruelest third exam." The cruelest. Dong Shenyao and the others were stunned. They all wanted to ask a question, isn't the second exam cruel? Originally, there were more than 40 groups with hundreds of people taking the test, but now less than 20 people have passed the test. Such a high elimination rate is considered terrifying to many people. I know what you think. After a pause, Taro Toyokawa continued. Although the second exam is dangerous, it is not difficult to pass if you are lucky or have strong life-saving abilities. But the third exam is different. This exam will test you both. When it comes to personal strength, as long as the strength is insufficient, then you can only be eliminated or even die. Quote. Okay Taro-kun, the next task will be handed over to me as the chief examiner of the third round. Before Toyokawa Taro could continue, a voice interrupted him, and then I saw a figure. Suddenly appeared beside Toyokawa Taro. This person appeared very suddenly, even with Dong Shenyao's eyesight, he didn't even notice how he appeared. What a fast speed. Dong Shenyao was awe-inspiring. He knew that this was the real powerful ninja, at least his strength was far stronger than the current him. Hello everyone, my name is Hayes Jiming, and I'm the chief examiner of your third exam. The new ninja introduced himself after looking at Dong Shenyao and the others. Next, I will introduce the content of the third exam to you. The third exam will be held in half a month. During this half month, you can take a good rest, especially if you are seriously injured, you must seize the opportunity to heal. Speaking of this, Hayes Jiming also looked at Dong Shenyao specially. After taking his eyes back, Hayes Jiming continued. The third test is very simple, that is, a battle, a one-on-one battle, the winner can advance, the loser is eliminated, and finally the strongest person is selected. Sure enough, it's the same as the Chunin exam in the original book. Dong Shenyao thought to himself after hearing this. My lord, is there only one person who can become Chunin in the end? Someone asked. Of course not. There will be many adults watching during your competition. At that time, it will be determined whether you are eligible to become Chunin according to your performance in the competition. So even if you are defeated, as long as you are still alive, you will still be alive. The chance to become Chunin. On the other hand, even if you win in the end, if the adults are not satisfied, then you will not be able to become Chunin. Quote. Hearing Hayes Jiming's explanation, many people were relieved. After all, many people are not confident that they can go to the end, but they want to be Chunin again. And now Hayes Jiming's words undoubtedly gave them a hope. By the way, I think you should have a clear understanding of your own strength, so now I can give you a chance to abstain. After all, the third exam will also kill people. Changgu Jiming's voice fell, the scene was silent, and everyone fell silent. Some people look confident, but some people show the color of thinking. I abstain. Finally, after waiting for more than 2 minutes, someone stood up. With the first one, there will be a second one, and it didn't take long for someone to abstain. In the end, the crowd, which was originally small, became even smaller. This stopped when the number of people was reduced to only 14. Dong Shenyao had secretly counted them before, and there were a total of 18 people who passed the second test, that is, 6 groups. Now there are 4 people who have chosen to abstain. Obviously, they have no confidence in their own strength and are afraid of death. Otherwise, he was seriously injured and could not recover in a short time, so he had to withdraw from the exam. For those who quit, no one laughs at them, after all, only living has a future. When it was confirmed that no one would abstain, Hayes Jiming said again, okay, if you have nothing to do, you can go first, go back and have a good rest. As for the venue of the third exam, your guide Jonan will inform you later. After finishing speaking, Hayes Jiming did not give Dong Shenyao and the others a chance to ask questions again, and left directly using the instant body technique. Congratulations on passing the exam, let me take you to a barbecue. At this time, Uehara Kakai came over to greet Dong Shenyao and the others. Mr. Chi, I feel I should go to the hospital first. Dong Shenyao smiled wryly. Iya, how did you do it, Yao? You shouldn't be like this with your strength. Uehara K asked in surprise. Can you not tell me, teacher? Dong Shenyao said nervously. If you don't want to talk about it, just talk about it, Fumino. What's going on? Uehara K didn't embarrass Dong Shenyao, but he began to ask Kimura Fumino. Kimura Fumino didn't have any concerns, and just told the story again. After that, Dong Shenyao was inevitably criticized by Uehara Kai. Sorry for the lateness of this chapter. Chapter 66 The Inside Story of the Chunin Exam. Uehara K sent him to the hospital in Konoha village for treatment after he criticized Dong Shenyao. Yao, you should recuperate in the hospital these few days, don't worry about the exam. I will guide you when your injury is completely healed. Uehara Chi comforted. Well, Mr. Chi, don't worry, I will take good care of my injury. Dong Shenyao knew that Uehara Chi was worried that he was anxious for the Chunin exam, so he would go to training before his injury healed. Of course Dong Shenyao would not do this. After all, the body is the capital of the revolution. If the injury is not good, it will be bad to go to training and leave a secret injury. Because Dong Shenyao needed to rest, Uehara Kai and the others did not continue to disturb Dong Shenyao and left soon, leaving Dong Shenyao alone in the ward for a while. Hey, it looks like I'll be staying here for the next few days. Dong Shenyao thought with a bit of boredom. Dong Shenyao stayed in the hospital for a total of 3 days, after which he was discharged after the examination confirmed that his injuries had recovered. Knowing that Tashinyao was discharged from the hospital, Uehara Ki also took Tashinyao and the three to have a barbecue to celebrate the three of them passing the second exam. Yao, I don't know what your plans are next. Uehara Ki began to talk about business after he was full. Mr. Chi, please guide Brother Jun and the others well first. I feel like I'm going to make a breakthrough, so I'm going to practice on my own for a while. Breakthrough. Great, then keep working hard. I won't bother you for the next few days. If you need any help from me, just tell me. Uehara Chi was a little happy to learn that Dong Shenyao was about to make a breakthrough. Congratulations, Ayao is about to break through again. Kimura Fumino and the two said with some envy. Okay, you should wait until I succeed in breaking through. Dong Shenyao said a little embarrassedly. Yo, I'm very happy that you can break through, because this exam is very important, you must work hard. Uehara said very seriously. Mr. Chi, isn't this just a Chunin exam? Is there any inside story? Kimura Fumino asked curiously. Uehara Chiwenyan looked at the three of them very seriously and said, since you have entered the third exam, then I will tell you the inside story of this Chunin exam. You should know that the 5 ninja kingdoms have never appeared in the Chunin exams in the past. The people from the village of Ninja went to take the exam in Mutual Ninja Village because it was very dangerous. But this time it was different, people from Sunagakure Village and Iwagakure Village were sent here, because this Chunin exam is very important. Before, Lord Hokage and the shadows of the other 2 villages had the intention of truce. After all, after so many years of fighting, everyone was a little tired and prepared to take a break. However, the villages of Sunagakure and Iwagakure were not very reconciled, so they proposed the Chunin exam. In the Chunin exam, the ninjas of the 3 villages competed with each other. If the people from Konoha village finally won, then Iwagakure village and an unconditional truce in the village of Sunagakure. On the contrary, then Konoha has to give some compensation. After 3-way negotiation, it was decided to put the test site in Konoha village, but Iwagakure village and Sunagakure village also have conditions, and the geniuses of several major ninja families in Konoha village are not allowed to play. Why is this? Are those 2 villages afraid of our Konoha genius? Tashin Kudo asked in surprise. That's not it. Uehara Ki shook his head. After all, the test site is in Konoha, and the 2 countries are also afraid that Konoha will not be good for their ninjas, so the ninjas sent to take the test are not the strongest geniuses in each village, so once they face the geniuses of the Hyuga clan or the Uchiha clan, it's hard to deal with, that's why they're making this condition. It turned out to be like this. I didn't expect that the most talented ninja in their village came this time. Hearing Uehara Ki's words, Kudo-shun and the 2 looked very frustrated, because even the most talented people are already so powerful. Okay, now you all know the meaning of this exam, so for the sake of the village, you must work hard in the next 3rd exam, especially Yao, you are my favorite, try to win the championship in this exam. Don't worry, Teacher Chi, I will work hard. Dong Shenyao said firmly with his fist clenched. The 3rd exam for Chunin's selection was just around the corner, and Kei Uehara and the others didn't waste much time, and left soon after speaking. Uehara Ki took Kudo-shun and the 2 to train, while Tashinyao went home to see if he could break through the bottleneck of Yi Jinjing. Originally, Dong Shenyao was going to exchange Uchiha's bloodline. After all, he had been staring at this thing for a long time. Now that he has finally accumulated enough God creation points, Dong Shenyao certainly couldn't wait. But now that the Yijinjing has to be broken through, it is more attractive to Dong Shenyao, so Dong Shenyao is going to work hard to cultivate the Yijinjing first. After returning home, it was already afternoon, and Dong Shenyao didn't rest, so he started cultivating Yi Jinjing directly. The practice of Yi Jinjing is to put the body into one posture, and then run the mind method. The first is the first style, Wei Tuo presents the pestle. Then there are the 2nd and 3rd formulas. 2 hours later, Dong Shenyao began to perform the 4th form. Before Dong Shenyao was a bit jerky when he practiced the 4th form, but at this time he felt very smooth, just like the first three forms, without the slightest restraint. In the blink of an eye, half an hour passed, and Dong Shenyao only felt his body heat up, sweating profusely all over his body, and his physical strength was exhausted. No, I have to persevere. Dong Shenyao knew that success or failure was in one fell swoop, and only by breaking through the limit could he break through the bottleneck of the fourth style and reach the fifth style. In the previous battle with Longjing, the bottleneck of Yijinjing had loosened, so after Dong Shenyao persisted for more than 5 minutes, the bottleneck was successfully broken. Dong Shenyao only heard a crisp sound of click in his body, as if something was broken. The next moment, a warm current appeared in his dantian, and began to flow along the main meridians in his body. Wherever the warm current passed, the cells seemed to be nourished and recovered quickly. When the warm current flowed through Dong Shenyao's body, he found that his originally exhausted physical strength had completely recovered, and it was better than before. Not only that, Dong Shenyao felt that even his physical fitness had improved a bit. At the same time, that warm current was completely exhausted and disappeared, which made Dong Shenyao a little disappointed. The Yijinjing is not the kind of exercise that can make people advance by leaps and bounds, but requires time accumulation and external training. Although Dong Shenyao has now made a breakthrough, his strength has not grown much. However, his strength will grow again in the next period of time, instead of being stagnant as before. If Dong Shenyao was a bottle full of water before, it would be difficult to make progress. So now Dong Shenyao is a bucket with a gap, and until the water is refilled, there will be no bottleneck in Dong Shenyao's strength. It seems that I will practice hard next time. After reaching the fifth form of Yijinjing, Dong Shenyao was in a good mood, because this was already the limit of his original family record. Previously, the most people who practiced Yijinjing in their Chen family had reached the fifth style. It is said that once the sixth form is reached, there will be an earth-shaking change, so this step is difficult, at least no one in the Chen family has ever achieved it. Chapter 67-3 Tomo. To cultivate the sixth form of Yijinjing was something that Dong Shenyao had never thought of before transmigration. After all, no one in his family's hundreds of years of history had ever achieved it. But now, Dong Shenyao has great confidence to break through to the sixth form. After getting used to the body after the breakthrough, Dong Shenyao directly entered the space of creating gods. The Yijinjing has broken through, and Dong Shenyao is no longer concerned. He can't wait to exchange it now. Summoning the exchange panel, Dong Shenyao quickly found the exchange option for Uchiha's bloodline. Uchiha bloodline common A*, requires 5,000 god points. Seeing that his god creation point has exceeded 6,000, Dong Shenyao did not hesitate anymore, and directly chose to exchange. Would you like to exchange for the normal Uchiha bloodline? Yes, Dong Shenyao shouted directly. Ding! Conditions are met, redemption begins. As the sound of the system disappeared, a golden light, Jinchuriki column, instantly enveloped Dong Shenyao. Since it was not the first time to exchange, Dong Shenyao was not surprised at all. After being enveloped by the light Jinchuriki column, Dong Shenyao waited quietly. Ah! Suddenly, screams sounded, and Dong Shenyao's face turned hideous. Now he only has one feeling, and that is pain. The body seems to be split apart, and there is no place that does not hurt. This kind of pain that penetrated deep into the bone marrow almost made Dong Shenyao collapse. Fortunately, he was someone who died once, and after so many years of cultivation, Dong Shenyao had already had a firm heart, so he bit Kiba and stubbornly came over. The screams became weaker and weaker, not because the pain had eased, but because Dong Shenyao no longer had the strength to shout. Although only 5 minutes passed and the Jinchuriki column disappeared, it seemed like 5 hours had passed for Ta Shenyao. Woohoo! Not bothering to check the exchange result, Dong Shenyao sat directly on the ground and gasped continuously. Dong Shenyao rested for a full half an hour before recovering, and then directly shouted, "System, are you playing with me? Why is it so painful to exchange a bloodline?" Exchange of bloodline requires changes to the host's whole body genes, and naturally there will be some pain. The mechanical voice of the system sounded again. Some. Is that some? It almost didn't hurt you and me. Dongshin Yao bit Kiba and complained. Sorry, there is no father in this system. The system's words were so serious, but it sounded a little funny to Dong Shenyao. How did you come here if you don't even have Lao Su? Dong Shenyao asked. Quiet. Dong Shenyao waited for a while to see the system but still did not respond, thinking that the system would not say anything, but at this moment the voice of the system suddenly came. Insufficient host authority, this question will not be answered. Permission. What is that? Dong Shenyao questioned. The authority refers to the degree of control the host has over the system. The higher the authority, the higher the degree of control over the system, and the more functions that can be used. The system answered truthfully. Hearing the system's answer, Dong Shenyao's mind flashed, and he immediately grasped a key point. Function. Is there any other function of the God creation system? Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao asked quickly. That's right, there are still many functions in the God-making system that have not been turned on. This requires the host's authority to reach a certain level before it can be turned on. After getting a positive answer from the system, Dong Shenyao was a little excited. After all, only the current function makes Dong Shenyao greedy. If other functions are activated, it will be against the sky. The system, what should I do to increase the authority? Dong Shenyao can't wait to increase the authority to enable new functions. It's very simple. The purpose of this system is to create gods, to make the host stronger and stronger. So as long as the strength of the host increases, the authority will naturally increase. If the host can become a god, then he can completely control this system. Hearing the system's answer, Dong Shenyao couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that privilege escalation would be so simple. That's not right. I've already reached the special Jonin level in the system. Why haven't I seen you say that my privilege has been elevated? If you want to elevate your authority, you need at least the host's cultivation realm to reach Jonin. Although the system's voice still lacked the slightest emotion, for some reason, Dong Shenyao felt that there was a sense of ridicule in the ruthless voice, which was mocking his own low cultivation. Damn, you wait, when Lao Su completely controls you, I must take you apart and take a look. Dong Shenyao thought fiercely in his heart. Of course, he can only YY in his heart now. After all, his current strength is too low, and he can't even touch the system itself. How can he dismantle the system? At this time, Dong Shenyao's body had completely recovered, and he knew that no matter how much he complained about the next time he exchanged blood, he would still be in pain, so Dong Shenyao did not continue to say anything, but began to check the changes in his body. Strange, why don't you feel anything? After checking, Dong Shenyao found that there was no change in his body's strength or speed, which made Dong Shenyao feel that he had been deceived. System, haven't I already exchanged for Uchiha's bloodline, why is there no change now? After thinking about it, Dong Shenyao could only ask the system. Although the genes of the Uchiha clan surpass that of ordinary ninjas, and the speed and potential of chakra refining are stronger than those of ordinary ninjas, the original physique of the host has surpassed that of ordinary Uchiha clan people, so it is useless even to exchange Uchiha blood. The most important thing in the bloodline is not to improve physical fitness, but to enable people to open Sharingan. Quote. Hearing the system's explanation, Dong Shenyao showed a clear expression. It's true that most of the Uchiha clan's chakra numbers and cultivation speed are faster than ordinary people, but they are the best in Sharingan. When Uchiha is mentioned, the first thing that comes to mind is not their bodies, but their eyes. On the other hand, it is their body that strengthens the blood of the Senju family. He thought of the Senju family. Dong Shenyao couldn't help but think of the body of an immortal. Damn it, it's so expensive, when can I exchange it? Thinking of the immortal body that can only be exchanged for close to 6 figures, Dong Shenyao found that there were still too many god building points that were still so scarce. After checking the system, Dong Shenyao found that there were only a little more than 1,000 of the god-making points that had already exceeded 6,000. Hey, there is a long way to go. Thinking of the good things on the exchange system, Dong Shenyao could only sigh. Forget it, don't think about it so much, let's see if Sharingan has changed. In the end, Dong Shenyao could only give up thinking about those useless things. Sharingan on. Dong Shenyao's pupils instantly changed to Yuhi, and then he found that his eyesight was better. If in the past he could only see clearly what was 500 meters away, now he can see clearly even 1,000 meters away. Could this be the benefit of Uchiha's bloodline? With doubts, Dong Shenyao gathered a mirror and looked at it. What? 3 tomo. When Dong Shenyao checked the condition of his eyes through the mirror, he couldn't help being stunned. He remembered that he had only had 2 tomos before. Is this a gift from the system? It's just that this idea was rejected by Dong Shenyao as soon as it came out. He knew how stingy the system was and could never do such a thing. By the way, the system said before that after exchanging the Uchiha bloodline, you can develop Sharingan based on your own abilities. I have already enabled dual Tomo Sharingan through the system before. Is it because I got the Uchiha bloodline and the Sharingan has been upgraded because I met the conditions? Dong Shenyao didn't know that his guess was correct. Whether Sharingan opened his eyes or evolved, it was caused by violent mood swings. When Dong Shenyao was undergoing transformation, the severe pain caused a drastic change in his spirit. Moreover, Sharingan belongs to Yin Dun, and the essence of Yin Dun is spiritual power. Speaking of spiritual power, Dong Shenyao, who has 2 lives, is very powerful. The combination of the two makes Dong Shenyao's Sharingan evolve directly from double tomo to triple tomo. 3 tomo's Sharingan Dong Shenyao knows very well, not only can copy the enemy's ninjutsu, but also the demonic illusion ability and dynamic vision have been greatly enhanced. There are even rumors that as long as the 3 tomo Sharingan are turned on, the strength of a ninja can immediately rival that of Jonin. It's about to be put on the shelves. Friends who like this book, please support Xiaohai and make your first order. Chapter 68 Multifunctional Contact Lenses. Ask for flowers. Ask for a reward. Opening the 3 tomo Sharingan, the strength can be comparable to that of Jonin. Although this is a bit exaggerated, it can also be seen that Sharingan is powerful. At least Tashinyao found out after experiencing the abilities of 3 tomo Sharingan. If a Chunin had Sharingan, it would be enough to fight against a special Jonin. Has the confidence to fight Jonin after getting 3 tomo Sharingan. Then Dong Shenyao checked again and found that the amount of chakra consumed after turning on 3 tomo Sharingan at this time is far less than when starting double tomo Sharingan before. Sure enough, after having the Uchiha bloodline, it's different, and the consumption becomes smaller. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. The past, Dong Shenyao basically wouldn't turn on Sharingan, not only because he was afraid of being discovered, but more because it consumed a lot of chakra. Once a war of attrition started, I'm afraid he won't wait for him to defeat the enemy, his chakra will already be there. Exhausted. But now I'm not afraid. With the Uchiha bloodline, the chakra that Sharingan needs to consume is greatly reduced, even if it is turned on for an hour or 2, it's nothing. Looks like I need to find a way to cover my eyes. Dong Shenyao knew that he would probably use Sharingan a lot in the future. It might be nothing to do it once or twice, but it would be unavoidable that people would find it more often. So he had to figure out a way to block Sharingan. I don't know if there is any in the system. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao hurriedly checked. Have it. Soon Dong Shenyao found what he needed in the exchange system. Color contact lenses, C-class item. Requires 30 magic points. It takes 30 god building points. Are you robbing the system? Dong Shenyao complained directly. In his opinion, a beauty contact lens is not worth a lot of money at all, but in the exchange system, there are so many magic points. You must know that even a Tomo Sharingan only needs 50 magic points. Please don't question the pricing of this system. The system must be a high-quality product, and all items are worth the money. Hearing the deep dissatisfaction in the sound of the system, Dong Shenyao could only remain silent. After all, he still has to rely on the system now, and of course he can't offend it too much. Okay, I'll exchange it. Anyway, there are still more than 1,000 god building points, and Dong Shenyao simply used the local tyrant once. After all, he needs this thing too much now. After Dong Shenyao exchanged the beauty contact lenses, a golden light shot down soon. But unlike before, this golden light did not shine on Dong Shenyao, but in front of him. At the same time, Dong Shenyao found a small box floating in the golden light. Dong Shenyao knew that what was in the box should be the items he exchanged, so he immediately reached out and took out the box without hesitation. The next moment, the golden light dissipated and everything returned to normal. After taking the box, Dong Shenyao couldn't wait to open it. When the box was opened, there was no vision, it just contained a pair of contact lenses. Just different from ordinary contact lenses, this contact lens is black. Dong Shenyao didn't hesitate and took the contact lenses directly. Sure enough, it's a fine product. It didn't affect my eyesight in the slightest, but it actually strengthened it. After putting on the glasses, Dong Shenyao tried it on and found that it was not bad. Soon a message entered Dong Shenyao's mind, and he got all the functions of this pair of contact lenses. And when Dong Shenyao understood its function, he didn't say that the system was hacked anymore, because in Dong Shenyao's view, this pair of glasses was indeed worth 30 points. First of all, the first function is to improve the wearer's vision, which is not very useful for Dong Shenyao. But the second function is too important. This pair of contact lenses can be merged with the wearer's pupil, and no one can detect the existence of the contact lens unless the wearer wants to. In other words, it is impossible for other people to find out that Dong Shenyao is wearing glasses no matter what method they use, which also saves Dong Shenyao from future troubles. In Dong Shenyao's view, this function alone is worth the 30 god building points. But what surprised Dong Shenyao was that it also had a third function, which was night vision. In other words, Dong Shenyao can see clearly even at night. It seems that there are a lot of good things in the system. I can't always stare at those things with high prices. Maybe low-level things are also very useful. At this moment, Dong Shenyao completely paid attention to the exchange system. Although the things in the exchange system exist in the Hokage world, they are all optimized by the system, which is only stronger than the original. After checking the function of perfect pupil, Dong Shenyao turned on Sharingan and tried it again, and found that it really couldn't be seen from the outside. This time I can finally use Sharingan in an open and honest way. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. Anyway, there is time now. After experimenting with perfect Hitomi's ability, Dong Shenyao began to check the exchange system in detail. The exchange system is divided into 4 categories, namely item category, skill category, bloodstain category and other categories. In the past, what Dong Shenyao saw the most was bloodstains, and the contact lenses he exchanged before belonged to items. As for the skill class, Dong Shenyao has also seen it. There are various skills in it, but they all belong to the Hokage world, not only various ninjutsu, but even Sharingan and even Rinnegan's skills. It's a pity that the exchange of pupil technique not only requires god-making points, but also corresponding bloodstains. The other categories belong to the sundries. There are all kinds of messy things, and even Dong Shenyao saw the existence of various psychic beasts and even tailed beasts in it. After taking a general look at the 4 categories, Dong Shenyao finally set his sights on the item category. My overall strength should be comparable to that of a normal Jonin now, so maybe I can find a handy weapon. As the old saying goes, if a worker wants to do well, he must first sharpen his tools. A good weapon is also very important in combat. Before, Dong Shenyao used only the most common kunai. Now that the 3rd exam for Chunin selection is coming, Dong Shenyao is ready to choose a weapon. After checking the weapon exchange, Dong Shenyao couldn't help shaking his head. There are indeed many good things in it, such as the 2nd generation Hokage's weapon Thor's sword, and the grass pheasant sword, etc. Unfortunately, the price is too expensive, and Dong Shenyao can't exchange it at all. And the cheap thing is that he doesn't like it, or it looks bad. Do you want to go to a blacksmith shop to build a handle? Dong Shenyao thought to himself. Hey, what is this? Just when Dong Shenyao was thinking about whether to make a ninja tool or not, he suddenly found that there was an exchange option called forging in the item exchange, and in this option A is displayed on the required god-making point at the back. What's going on with the system? Isn't it a bug? After he couldn't understand it, Dong Shenyao could only ask the system. Weapon exchange is different from other exchanges. In order to get the best quality products, the host can choose the style of the weapon and the material used, and then the system will automatically generate it according to the host's requirements. So smart. Dong Shenyao was directly excited. Chapter 69 Shadow Knife. Dong Shenyao did not think that the exchange function of this system and the ability to forge weapons, as long as he imagined it, he could make it, even an artifact like Xuanyuan sword. Of course, it's just similar in appearance. The materials needed to forge weapons must be available in the Hokage world, otherwise the system will not be able to do it. But this is enough, after all, he can't use it even if he is given an artifact. Soon Dong Shenyao began to imagine the appearance of the weapon in his mind. The weapon he used, Dong Shenyao, had already been designed, but his strength was low before, so he couldn't use it. The weapon of Dong Shenyao's fantasy is a tang knife. The tang knife is similar to the samurai knife, except that the blade of the samurai knife is mostly curved, but the tang knife is straight like a sword. The blade is 2 feet and 5 inches long, the handle is 8 inches long, and the blade is 1 inch wide. Yes, the dragon pattern is engraved on the blade, and it is indeed more domineering. Soon a tang handle appeared in Dong Shenyao's mind. Comes like a knife. After determining the appearance of the weapon, Dong Shenyao began to select the materials needed for forging the weapon. In order to allow Dong Shenyao to choose better, the system directly lists all the materials that can forge weapons in the Hokage world and their characteristics, and even recommends several combinations. I have to say that at this point the system is still very user-friendly. After all, Dong Shenyao doesn't know how to forge weapons, so it would be difficult for him to do it himself. Of course, Dong Shenyao did not forget to look at the magic points required to forge weapons when he made the choice. He already knew from the system before that, according to the quality of the materials required for forging weapons, the magic points required were also different. There are only more than 1,000 god building points left in his hand now, which is not enough for him to forge a very good weapon. Soon Dong Shenyao selected the material ratio, and it would cost a total of 500 god-making points to forge weapons based on the materials selected by Dong Shenyao. Not cheap, but worth it. Although the quality of the forged weapons is better than ordinary kunai, it has an advantage, that is, it can transmit chakra, which is a kind of chakra weapon. Once you enter chakra, the sharpness of the weapon will instantly increase. It is precisely because of this feature that it is so expensive. It's just that some chakras will be wasted in the process of passing out, so even Dong Shenyao's current chakra quantity is not enough to use for too long. Of course, if Dong Shenyao had more god building points, he could create weapons that consume less chakra, and even increase the power of chakra. It's a pity that there are too many god building points, which cannot be afforded by the current Dong Shenyao, so Dong Shenyao can only look at it and drool. The weapon selection is successful, and it needs to consume 500 god creation points. Do you want to exchange it? After Dong Shenyao finished selecting the materials, the system's voice rang directly. Exchange. Dong Shenyao agreed without hesitation. A minute later, a golden light shot down, and I saw a black tang knife suspended in the light Jinchuriki column. The color of the tang dao was deliberately chosen by Dong Shenyao. After all, black is not easy to reflect light, and it is more concealed when sneak attack. The weapon has appeared, and Dong Shenyao can't wait to hold the tang dao in his hand. The tang knife weighs more than 10 kilograms, but it is just right for the current Dong Shenyao, and it feels very comfortable to hold the handle. Looking around, Dong Shenyao saw dragon-shaped nicks on both sides of the blade. These two dragon-shaped nicks made the knife look more powerful, and on the position near the hilt, it was engraved with 2 words, Cut Shadow. This is also the name Dong Shenyao gave this knife, intending to kill cage-level masters. I hope one day I can use you to kill cage-level powerhouses. Holding Zanying, Dong Xianyao said proudly. By the way, look at the system I spent today, can you give me a scabbard? At this time, Dong Xianyao realized that he had forgotten to prepare the scabbard. He has the cheek to ask the system for it. It's just that Dong Xianyao waited for a long time and didn't see a response from the system. Cut, cheapskate. Dong Xianyao knew that the system had rejected him outright, so he didn't even bother to answer him. However, when Dong Xianyao was about to exchange for a scabbard, he suddenly stopped. Because he thought of a scene in the original book when Sasuke used a weapon. At that time, Sasuke sealed the lily sword on his wrist, which was very convenient to use. That sealing technique is pretty good, and it's easy to carry. Thinking of this, Dong Xianyao hurriedly searched for the skill exchange. Found it. Soon Dong Xianyao turned his attention to an exchange option. Item sealing technique. Class C small items can be sealed onto other things. That's it. After seeing the introduction, Dong Xianyao was ready to exchange it. This sealing technique has no lethal power, it can only seal dead objects, and the volume of the sealed objects should not be too large, so the level is not high, only sea level, and the required magic point is only 40. Even if Dong Xianyao chooses to study by himself, it will be cheaper, as long as 20 god-making points. This is also the power of the system. If you exchange skills here, you can learn them directly, but you need more magic points. If you choose to cultivate on your own, the god creation points you need will be much cheaper. This sealing technique only requires 40 god-making points, and Dong Xianyao doesn't have that much time to learn now, so he directly chooses to exchange and learn this sealing technique. Under the golden light, Xianyao, who was bathed in the golden light, found that there was some information in his mind. Although this information was a little unfamiliar, he didn't know why he could use it so easily, as if he had used it thousands of times before. After getting the specific information about the item sealing technique, Dong Xianyao couldn't help but laugh. Sure enough, the products produced by the system must be high-quality products. This sealing technique can actually seal things directly on the body. Dong Xianyao remembered that although Sasuke sealed the lion on his wrist, it was not directly sealed on the body, but on the wrist guard. The golden light disappeared, and Dong Xianyao began to experiment impatiently. Dong Xianyao first drew a seal on his wrist, and then began to perform the operation. Seal. After consuming a small amount of chakra, it was only the first time that Dong Xianyao successfully sealed Zanying on his wrist. I saw a word, seal, appeared on the wrist of its left hand, and there were some lines around it. It really works. Dong Xianyao found that this sealing technique was very useful and did not consume much chakra. In the future, you can directly seal the items you need to bring, which can save a lot of space. The only disadvantage is that you cannot seal items that are too large. There is only 1 cubic meter in this sealing space, only the shape not fixed. That is to say, as long as the volume does not exceed 1 cubic meter, it is possible to put in any shape. If there is no accident, it will be on the shelves tomorrow. Please ask for the first order in advance. Please hold on to Xiaohai. If you want to gain weight, you can subscribe to a chapter first, which is your support for Xiaohai. Thanks. Chapter 70 Fighting Hitaki Sakumo again. The item sealing technique is very useful, but it is not without its shortcomings. That is, if it is directly sealed on the body, it will oppress the body. After all, this is equivalent to sealing a space on the wrist, which will inevitably cause pressure on the wrist and even affect Dong Xianyao's body. Even with Dong Xianyao's current physical quality, he could only set up 2 item sealing techniques on his body at most, any more would affect his strength. And if the item sealing technique is set on other things, some conditions are also required, that is, it must be relatively strong, otherwise it will be directly destroyed by the sealing technique. After exchanging so many things one after another, Dong Xianyao now has only over 700 divine creation points left, and he did not continue to stay in the divine creation space, and soon came out. Although he was only a god-making space where his soul entered, when he came out, he found that the sealing technique already existed on his wrist, and he also had color lenses on his eyes. It's really amazing to be able to synchronize. Dong Shenyao was greatly surprised. Just when the weapon was fresh, Dong Shenyao went straight to the courtyard and took out the shadow-chopping saber from the sealed space, then danced. It was nothing at first, but after waving it randomly, Dong Shenyao was a little embarrassed, because he found that he didn't know how to use the sword, so the use of this shadow-cutting sword was not as smooth as that of Kuwu. Of course, it's okay if you spend a lot of time practicing, but Chunan's third exam is just around the corner, and he doesn't have much time to practice swordsmanship. Hey, it seems that I have to exchange a set of sword skills. I did it as soon as I thought of it. Dong Shenyao did not enter the god-making space this time, and summoned the exchange panel directly outside. The exchange panel appeared directly in Dong Shenyao's mind, and other people couldn't see it. After searching in the skills category, Dong Shenyao found that there are still a lot of various swordsmanship and swordsmanship. After all, there are warriors in this world. Even if it has declined now, but after all, it used to be brilliant. I don't know how many powerful skills have appeared. Of course, the so-called swordsmanship and swordsmanship are the same in this world. After all, there is no difference between swords and swords in this world. Dong Shenyao took a general look and found that those powerful swordsmanships were very expensive, and they were not exchanged by Dong Shenyao. Finally, after rummaging around, he chose a skill. Basic swordsmanship, C level, requires 20 magic points. It was not expensive, and it was learned directly, so Dong Shenyao did not hesitate to exchange it directly. The next moment, he just felt a surge of information pouring into his mind. After a few minutes, Dong Shenyao completely absorbed the memory of the sword technique that suddenly appeared in his mind. As expected of a basic knife technique, it's really just some basic things. The content of the information is not a lot, mostly some basic things. For example, how to hold the knife most easily, which part of the knife is the best to attack, etc. In addition, there are the basic skills in the sword technique, such as chopping, slashing, and so on. It's all basic, nothing complicated. However, this is what Dong Shenyao needs most. After all, he has never been exposed to this kind of thing. If it is too complicated, even if the system can let him learn it, the foundation is not solid, and his future achievements will be limited. The basic swordsmanship is enough for me to use for a while, and I will exchange it for advanced swordsmanship when I master it. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao began to associate the swordsmanship in the yard again. This time is different from the previous random hacking. Although there is still no routine, the angle and strength of each knife are obviously different. Soon the sun went down, and Dong Shenyao was also a little tired. After a simple meal, Dong Shenyao began to rest. After all, he had to practice with Uehara Chi tomorrow. The next morning, Dong Shenyao went out early, ready to go to the old place to gather. Just walking halfway, suddenly someone stopped him. "What's wrong with Sakumo?" Dong Shenyao asked, looking at the white-haired child who stopped him. It was the future Konoha White Fang, Hitaki Sakumo, who stopped Tashinyao. Of course, he is still just a little boy, only a few months older than Dong Shenyao. "I'm going to challenge you." Hitaki Sakumo looked at Tashinyao very seriously. "Yo, congratulations, you have already graduated." At this time, Dong Shenyao realized that Hitaki Sakumo had a ninja forehead on his head. Obviously, he had successfully graduated from the ninja school. Count the third-year students of the ninja school. It was indeed time for graduation. "Nothing to congratulate, I'm not as good as you." Hitaki Sakumo's face was a little ugly. Graduation is normal in his opinion, and congratulations are only deserved for graduating early like Dong Shenyao. The corner of Dong Shenyao's mouth twitched slightly. "Sakumo, you're still the same, can't you just smile?" "Why are you laughing?" Hitaki Sakumo asked with a sullen look. Dong Shenyao was speechless for a while, but if it's all right, he doesn't need to laugh. But I didn't see Hataki Sakumo laughing when something happened. Forget it, I know it's useless to tell you this. Sakumo, do you have anything to do with me? Dong Shenyao hurriedly changed the subject, otherwise he felt that if he continued to talk, he might not be able to help but pull out his shadow-chopping knife. Hataki Sakumo. I've said it before, I'm going to challenge you. Hataki Sakumo said firmly. Hataki Sakumo had said it before, but he forgot about it because he suddenly found out that he had graduated. Okay, let's compare, but this place is not suitable, right? Dong Shenyao looked around. At this time, the two were on the street, and if they fought, it would easily hurt innocent people. Follow me. Apparently, Hataki Sakumo was already prepared. After speaking, he turned around and walked towards the side alley. With Hataki Sakumo for about 10 minutes, the two came to a small forest. Looking at the traces left on the surrounding trees, Dong Shenyao said, Sakumo isn't where you practice, right? Yes, I have been practicing here since I was defeated by you. You are working really hard, then let's start. Said, Dong Shenyao's body was tense, and he was ready to fight. Although his current strength is much stronger than when he just graduated, he still dare not underestimate Hataki Sakumo. Hataki Sakumo was not polite either. Seeing that Dong Shenyao was ready, he took the lead. Raise your hand and hit a few shuriken. Tashinyao pulled out kunai in an instant. Dang dang dang. All the shuriken were blocked, but at this time Hataki Sakumo was already close to Tashinyao. Huh. Hataki Sakumo punched Tashinyao in the chest. Didn't dodge, but raised his left hand and grabbed Hataki Sakumo's fist. If there is no accident, it will be on the shelves tomorrow. Please ask for the first order in advance. Please hold on to Xiaohai. If you want to gain weight, you can subscribe to a chapter first, which is your support for Xiaohai. Chapter 71 Knife Fight. Bang! Hataki Sakumo punched Dong Shenyao in the palm of his hand, and Dong Shenyao didn't move at all, and received the punch steadily. Feeling the power emanating from Hataki Sakumo's fist, Dongshin's dazzling flashes of surprise flashed, because this power alone is no worse than that of an ordinary elite genin. To be able to have such strength just after graduation is worthy of being the future Konoha White Fang. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. Elite genin doesn't look weak, but it's not so easy to achieve. Just look at Kimura Fumino and the two, they graduated a year ago, and their strength is only elite genin. In the end, he was stimulated by Dong Shenyao to practice hard, and only recently did he reach Chunin's strength. Seeing that his punch was easily blocked by Tashinyao, Hataki Sakumo was not surprised. After all, he already knew from his father that Dong Shenyao had defeated the elite Chunin in the graduation exam. And now that several months have passed since the graduation exam, Dong Shenyao's strength will definitely improve, so it is very simple to be able to catch his attack. But I won't give up. Heart! Hataki Sakumo kicked Tashinyao's knee. Bang! Dong Shenyao raised his legs as well, and immediately the two of them kicked together. At the same time, Dong Shenyao released Hataki Sakumo's fist. Under the interaction of strength, the two retreated at the same time. Come again. This time Dong Shenyao took the initiative to attack. Although he is now far more powerful than Hataki Sakumo, he has no intention of showing mercy, because in Tashinyao's view, only fighting with all his strength is respect for the opponent. Bang! Very fast, and Hataki Sakumo hadn't stood firm yet, so he could barely raise his arms to resist. In the end, Tashinyao punched him in the arm, knocking Hataki Sakumo to the ground with tremendous force. Damn! Feeling the pain in his arm, Hataki Sakumo Kiba clenched tightly. Although he had expected the difference in strength between the two before the battle, he still did not expect that he would be defeated so easily. He still remembered that when he fought Dong Shenyao for the first time, the two were able to fight for a long time, but now, he couldn't even hold on to 3 moves. Sakumo, do you want to continue? Dong Shenyao asked Hataki Sakumo, who was half kneeling on the ground. Looking up at Dong Shenyao, what Hataki Sakumo saw from Dong Shenyao's eyes was only calm, not a trace of happiness. He understands what this means. He is no longer in the eyes of Dong Shenyao. The two sides are not at the same level of opponents, so defeating him, Dong Shenyao is not a little excited. East Shenyao, you are stronger than I expected. I know that I am not your opponent now. But I want to see how big the gap between us is. Next, I will show my true strength. I hope I can do my best. Hatake Tsukumo said with a very serious look. No problem. Hatake Tsukumo stopped talking, just slowly pulled out the knife behind his back. This is a short knife, at least a lot shorter than the shadow slasher that Dong Shenyao exchanged, but it is just right in the hands of Hatake Tsukumo. Seeing Hatake Tsukumo taking out a knife, Dong Shenyao was stunned for a moment, and then his face showed a clear look. The Hatake family is said to have a history of thousands of years, and was originally a samurai family, but later the samurai declined and the ninja rose. The Hatake family abandoned the identity of the samurai and turned into a ninja. But despite this, some samurai swordsmanships are still handed down. The Hatake family combined ninjutsu with swordsmanship, and took a different approach to become a powerful ninja family, with strong men appearing in all dynasties. It's just a pity that the Hatake family has not been prosperous, so although the individual strengths are very strong, they are not as famous as the Uchiha and Hyuga families. However, everyone who knew the Hatake family dared not despise this family. Tsukumo, it seems that you have already started to practice family swordsmanship, but I don't know how much you have learned. Dong Shenyao said with a look of anticipation. He has just learned swordsmanship, and of course he hopes to see the swordsmanship of the Hatake family. I didn't learn much. I hope I won't let you down. Hatake Tsukumo is not being modest, he is just telling the truth, at least in his opinion, he really didn't learn much. Since you want to use swordsmanship, then I will also use swordsmanship to fight you. Said, Dong Shenyao stretched out his left arm, and the fingers of his right hand were a little at the wrist. Solution. With a light drink from Dong Shenyao, a chakra wave appeared at his wrist, and then Dong Shenyao stretched out his hand and pulled out the shadow chopping blade from the wrist of his left hand. Huh. Hatake Tsukumo was taken aback for a moment. He didn't think that Dong Shenyao would also use a knife. Hatake Tsukumo, I also just started practicing swordsmanship, please advise. I saw Dong Shenyao's right hand lowered, and the tip of the knife pointed diagonally to the ground. Please. After saying hello, Hatake Tsukumo took the initiative again. I saw a force under his feet, his body rushed out, and quickly rushed towards Dong Shenyao. When the two weapons collided and sparks flew, then the two quickly backed away. Soon Hatake Tsukumo's second knife was already cut. This time, neither of them used any ninjutsu, but launched a competition of swordsmanship. Although Dong Shenyao got the experience of using a knife taught by the system, but it was the first time it was applied to actual combat, so it was still a bit jerky. And Hatake Tsukumo didn't practice swordsmanship for a long time. He usually practiced against his father at most, so he didn't have much experience in fighting. For a time, the two actually fought for a half-pound. It's just that with the passage of time, Dong Shenyao gradually deepened his understanding of basic swordsmanship through actual combat. Although it is only the foundation, if the foundation is cultivated to the peak, it is not necessarily weaker than those advanced swordsmanship. After all, no matter how powerful the blade technique is, it has evolved from the basics. Gradually, Dong Shenyao's swords became more and more strange. Although the swordsmanship was simple, it was just ordinary slashing, stabbing, etc., but it made Hatake Tsukumo a little bit in a hurry. When, after fighting each other again, Dong Shenyao suddenly turned the blade with the help of the impact force, directly causing the hilt to rush forward and the blade to rush back. Bang! Use the hilt to hit Hatake Tsukumo's chest. Although it is only a hilt, it has a lot of power, so Hatake Tsukumo is thrown into chaos. You lost. When Hatake Tsukumo regained his stature, the shadow chopping blade was already on his neck. At this time, Hatake Tsukumo's eyes were dull, and he didn't expect to lose to Tashinyao in his best field. After resealing the shadow-chopping blade on his wrist, Dong Shenyao looked at Hitaki Sakumo and said, "Sakumo, I hope you can fight with you after you have mastered your sword skills." After speaking, Dong Shenyao turned and left. Thank you, Jidoha, for your monthly ticket support. Chapter 72 Test Strength. Looking at the back of Dong Shenyao leaving, Hitaki Sakumo's eyes gradually regained some light. "I won't give up. Sooner or later I will surpass you." Apparently, Hitaki Sakumo didn't give up because of the failure, but instead aroused his fighting spirit. Although he didn't look back, Tashinyao had already felt the change in Hitaki Sakumo. He knew that the next time they met again, Hitaki Sakumo's strength would definitely change dramatically. "It's impossible to catch up with me, because my strength will only get stronger and stronger." When Dong Shenyao came to the old place to gather, Uehara Kei and Kimura Fumino had already arrived. "Yao, why are you here so late? Have you not recovered yet?" Kimura Fumino asked with concern when Dong Shenyao arrived. "It's alright, it's just that I encountered some delays on the way here," Dong Shenyao briefly explained. Seeing that Dong Shenyao was reluctant to say more, Kimura Fumino didn't ask any more. "Yao, is your body okay?" Uehara Kei asked. "Teacher, don't worry, my body has already recovered." Dong Shenyao kicked his legs a few times as he spoke, indicating that he was completely fine. "It's fine, you're going to take the third exam next, so I'll give you some pointers while there's still some time before the exam. By the way, you said you were going to make a breakthrough before, I wonder what's going on now." "Mr. Chi, I have already made a breakthrough. As for strength, there is no test, so I don't know yet," Dong Shenyao answered truthfully. "Well, then I'll test it for you." "That's great." Seeing that Chi Uehara was about to take the shot himself, Dong Shenyao was very excited. "Although I feel that my overall strength is not weaker than Jonin, after all, I haven't really played against Jonin, so Dong Shenyao's psychology is also a bit uncertain. Now that there is an elite Jonin as a sparring partner, how could he be unhappy?" "Fan Yi, Xiaojun, watch from the side, I'm going to fight Yao." Uehara Kei looked at Kimura Fumino and said. He knew that the strength of Dong Shenyao was not what it used to be, and it would not be as easy as last time to win, and the aftermath of the fight would definitely not be small. Hearing Uehara Kei's words, Kimura Fumino and the two hurriedly withdrew hundreds of meters to make room for Uehara Kei and the two to fight. In a clearing surrounded by trees, Ki Uehara and Ta Shinyao were staring at each other more than 10 meters apart. "Yao, you go first." Dong Shenyao was not polite, and quickly hand seal with both hands. Doden Earth Style Earth Shuriken Art. With the completion of Dong Shenyao's hand seal, all the gravel pieces on the ground within more than 10 meters around his body flew up, and then turned into shuriken and shot at Uehara Kei. Facing such a large-scale attack, Kei Uehara could only choose to use ninjutsu to resist. Doden Earth Style Earth Flow Wall. Kei Uehara slapped the ground with both hands, and a wall of earth suddenly rose on the ground in front of him. The next moment, countless earth shuriken bombarded the earth wall. Boom! A burst of banging sounded, and the smoke instantly covered the earth wall. Seeing this, Dong Shenyao suddenly became vigilant. After all, now that his vision is blocked, who knows what Kei Uehara will do? "No, you can't sit still." Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao moved. I saw Dong Shenyao exert strength under his feet, and left the place directly, at the same time quickly hand seal with both hands. And just as Dong Shenyao had just left the place, an arm suddenly appeared from where he was standing. "Sure enough, you are going to attack me." Dong Shenyao was relieved to see this scene. Doden Earth Style Dusty. It was clear that there was no strong wind, but the dust on the ground suddenly flew up, and all of the surrounding dozens of meters were covered in smoke and dust. The dust could affect Kei Uehara's sight, but it was useless to the caster of Dong Shenyao. After realizing Kei Uehara's location, Dong Shenyao quietly touched it. Huh! Kunai went straight to Uehara Keiho's heart to stab him, and Dong Shenyao had no intention of holding back. PFF'd. What? Seeing that his kunai was successfully pierced into the heart of Uehara Kaihu, Dong Shenyao couldn't help but be surprised, but he quickly reacted. If it is to change an opponent, Dong Shenyao will not think too much. But this time the opponent was the elite Jonin, Kai Uehara. Dong Shenyao couldn't believe that Yuan Kai was so easily attacked by him at the meeting. Sure enough, Uehara Kai, who was stabbed by Kuwu, turned into a puddle of mud, and then a strong wind came from behind him. I don't know when, Uehara Kai actually came behind Dong Shenyao. PFF'd. Uehara Kikuwu directly stabbed Dong Shenyao in the back of his heart, almost exactly the same as what Dong Shenyao did just now. Bang! The smoke was angry, and Dong Shenyao turned into a piece of wood. What a fast hand seal speed! Uehara Kai was a little surprised. I thought Dong Shenyao couldn't dodge, but I didn't expect that he still missed. At this time, Dong Shenyao had already appeared in the open space more than 10 meters away from Uehara Kai. Although he just used the avatar technique to dodge, the speed was still a little slower. At this time, a hole was stabbed in the clothes of Dong Shenyao's back. At this time, Dong Shenyao already understood that what attacked him from the ground was simply a bait, to lure him into being fooled, but unfortunately he didn't see it. Sure enough, ginger is still old and spicy. Dong Shenyao knew that he wouldn't be able to last long if he continued like this. Sharingan on. An instant, Dong Shenyao's vision became clear, and 3 Tomo's appeared in the bloody Yuhi-colored eyes. However, because of the beauty contact lenses, outsiders could not see the illusion of his eyes at this time. Come again. Huh. Dong Shenyao exerted strength under his feet and ran straight to Uehara Chi. Doden Earth Style Earth Dragon Bullet. How could Kai Uehara let Tashinyao approach him so easily? After a quick hand seal, an Earth Dragon emerged from his side, and then opened his mouth, and one earthen bullet hit Tashinyao. At this time, Dong Shenyao had already activated the 3 Tomo Sharingan, and the dynamic vision was very strong, so the earth bomb could not hit him at all. After dodging a few times, Dong Shenyao successfully approached Kai Uehara. He was also welcome, and directly used Kuwu Thorn to go up to Yuan Kai. When the kunai of the two collided, and then retreated at the same time. However, Dong Shenyao took 5 steps back, but Uehara Revelation 4.3 only took 2 steps back. Clearly Uehara has the upper hand. Dong Shenyao didn't give Uehara Kai a chance to breathe, he raised a few shuriken and shot out. Kei Uehara dodged the shuriken's attack in a flash, and at the same time, adhering to the concept of coming and going without indecent assault, he also shot a few shuriken. For a while, Dong Shenyao and Uehara Kai fought hard. Yao is so strong, to be able to fight against Teacher Chi for so long. Kimura Fumino, who was sitting on the big tree watching the battle, said enviously. When Dong Shenyao was hospitalized before, they had also fought against Uehara Kai, and even in a 1-2 match, they didn't hold on to Uehara Kai for a few rounds. Yeah, Yao's strength has improved again. 10 today. Ask for subscription, ask for automatic subscription. Chapter 73 Start practicing. Kimura Fumino and the two were envious of the speed at which Tashinyao's strength improved, and Uehara Chi was also surprised by Tashinyao's current strength. Because the threat that Dong Shenyao brought him now is no different from the general Jonin, and even because of his super-fast hand seal speed, it is even more difficult than the general Jonin. If the only thing that is different from Jonin is that the power of ninjutsu is a little weaker, and it is not as good as the real Jonin. This kid is really a monster. How old is he now? I'm afraid I won't be his opponent in a few years. Uehara Kai thought to himself. Of course, although Kai Uehara was thinking about things in his heart, his body didn't stop at all, and he was still fighting with Dong Shenyao, you and me. After the initial ninjutsu battle, the two had already entered the taijutsu competition. After all, ninjutsu consumes too much chakra, so even the real fighting chunin will not use ninjutsu easily, even if it does try to use low-level ninjutsu. Uehara and Tashinyao, most of the time they are competing in physical skills. They only use ninjutsu when they can't resist the opponent's attack or when they want to counterattack, and they are all D-level. Or C-level ninjutsu. As for B-level ninjutsu, it is rarely used. Soon the two fought for more than 20 rounds. At this time, there were several wounds on Dong Shenyao's body, which were all left by Kai Uehara. If it wasn't for Dong Shenyao's rapid use of the substitute technique, I'm afraid he would have lost. This is also where Kai Uehara is depressed. It is clear that Dong Shenyao's comprehensive strength is at the level of ordinary jonins, but the level of difficulty is equivalent to 2 or 3 jonins. Bang! Suddenly, Kai Uehara seized one of Dong Shenyao's flaws, placed his foot in his abdomen, and kicked Dong Shenyao out. Just the next moment, Dong Shenyao's body was still in midair, only to hear a bang, the smoke rose, and Dong Shenyao disappeared. No, it's Shadow Clone. Uehara K was surprised, because he found that he didn't realize when Ta Shenyao used Shadow Clone. At the same time, Ta Shenyao had emerged from the ground behind Kai Uehara, and on his right hand there was a high-speed spinning chakra ball. It was Rasengan. Dong Shenyao was not polite, and directly pressed Rasengan on the back of Sheng Yuanqi. It's you who's waiting. Not only did Kai Uehara not panic, but a smile appeared on his face. What? Dong Shenyao did not expect that his well-prepared blow would fail. It turned out that at the last moment, Yuanqi bent over to avoid Dong Shenyao's attack directly, and then raised his leg and kicked back. This time, Dong Shenyao could no longer dodge, and was kicked away by Kai Uehara. Immediately afterwards, Kai Uehara used the telekinesis technique and followed immediately. When Dong Shenyao landed, a handle of Kulu was already placed on his neck. Feeling the coolness on his neck, Dong Shenyao knew that he had lost. Although he knew that he was far from being the opponent of Kai Uehara, but he really lost, Dong Shenyao was still a little unwilling. Yao didn't expect you to improve so fast. After taking back the kunai, Kai Uehara exclaimed in admiration. The last time the two fought, he could easily win, but this time it took a lot of his energy. Kai Uehara felt that fighting Ta Shenyao was more tiring than fighting two jonins. Of course, this is also because the two are not real enemies, and many real ultimate moves cannot be used. Mr. Qi is still far behind you and me. Dong Shenyao shook his head and said. Yao, you are too modest. I dare to say that you are definitely the first among your peers. In Kai Uehara's heart, Dong Shenyao is definitely an evildoer. Yao was born in the same era as you. It's definitely a tragedy. Now I'm a little fortunate. I'm glad I was born more than 10 years earlier than you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll live in your shadow too. Mr. Qi, you're flattering me too much. What kind of genius am I? Dong Shenyao shook his head and said. Genius, he is not rare. He only likes one title, that is the strong. Uehara K shook his head and said nothing. Okay, the third exam is about to start. Let's start practicing now. Said, Uehara Kai took out a scroll, and after opening it, Dong Shenyao found some sealing techniques on it. Solution. After Kai Uehara made a few seals, he pressed the scroll with one hand, and the next moment he heard a bang sound, and smoke rose. When the smoke cleared, a few things appeared on the scroll. This is the weight I prepared for you, come and wear it. With that said, Kai Uehara distributed a few things to Fumino Kimura and the two of them. Teacher, where's mine? Seeing that Chi Uehara had divided everything, but he was still empty-handed, Dong Shenyao was a little dumbfounded. Yao, your overall strength is now comparable to that of Jonin. The only thing lacking is experience and an understanding of ninjutsu, so I will teach you ninjutsu specifically. Hearing Kai Uehara's explanation, Ta Shenyao also understood. After all, he is not yet 7 years old. Due to physical limitations, it is not easy for him to reach the level of an elite chunin in physical skills. It is too difficult to improve physical skills, so it is better to concentrate on it. Practice ninjutsu. After all, ninjutsu is not limited by age. It's no wonder that Chi Uehara looked down on Dong Shenyao. He really didn't know that Dong Shenyao practiced yijinjing, a technique that could improve his physique. Otherwise, he would probably change his teaching on Dong Shenyao and be presumptuous. Nature transformation of chakra. Once master nature transformation, the power of ninjutsu will be doubled. The real ninjutsu type Jonin is master chakra nature transformation. And now Dong Shenyao only touched the nature transformation a little. The reason why the power of ninjutsu is comparable to that of ordinary Jonin is because of the soil fruit. With the strengthening of the soil fruit, the power of his Doden, earth-style, ninjutsu will be so great. Teacher Chi, I'll leave it to you now. Dong Shenyao said sincerely. Kai Uehara did not live up to Dong Shenyao's expectations, and started teaching Dong Shenyao directly. At this time, Konoha village had only been established for more than 10 years, and many things were immature. For example, the training of ninjas, although everyone knows some knowledge, but no one has systematically sorted them out, so it is a bit laborious to teach. As it is now, Kai Uehara knows that what Dong Shenyao needs to cultivate now is the chakra nature transformation, but he has no good way of how to cultivate it. He can only release ninjutsu by himself, and then let Dong Shenyao feel it. The difference. Fortunately, Dong Shenyao has seen Hokage Ninja, and he has seen the opinions of many great gods on the internet before crossing, so at this time he has developed a method for himself to practice chakra nature transformation. Chapter 74. The third exam begins. Chakra can be mainly divided into 5 attributes, namely fire, wind, thunder, earth and water. In addition, there are a small number of people who have the attributes of yin and yang. Chakra test strips can detect a person's chakra attributes. Different attributes. Chakra test strips will also change in different ways. For example, the wind attribute can make the chakra test strips split into 2, the soil attribute can make the chakra test strips shatter, etc. Through the detection of chakra test paper, Dong Shenyao knows that his chakra attributes are earth and fire, but he is better at Doden earth style, so what he wants to practice at this time is Doden earth style chakra nature transformation. Although the Hokage Ninja anime did not mention Doden earth style's chakra nature transformation cultivation method, it did say futon wind style, which is cutting leaves, which is the same as the detection result of chakra test paper. Therefore, based on the above results, it is speculated that Dong Shenyao guessed that the chakra nature transformation of the soil attribute can be completed by breaking the leaves. After all, the result of the chakra test paper detecting the soil attribute chakra is that the test paper is broken. Although I don't know if my speculation is correct, Dong Shenyao is still willing to try it. After all, this is far more useful than ignorant cultivation. Shadow clone. Bang! A shadow clone appeared. After Dong Shenyao asked him to start practicing nature transformation, he continued to use shadow clone. Of course, Dong Shenyao would not let go of this cheating method. Ordinary ninjas may not be able to use them. After all, this not only consumes chakra, but also is prone to danger. However, Dong Shenyao has a training in Yijinjing. Although the system is not as good as Naruto, it is not a problem to separate out some shadow clones. After seeing Dong Shenyao's approach, Uehara was a little stunned. Yao, what are you doing? Teacher Chi, I'm cultivating. Dong Shenyao asked, pretending not to know. Then why did you cultivate so many shadow clones? Seeing the 9 shadow clones standing there with their hands clasped in between the leaves, Kai Uehara was a little stunned, wondering what kind of cultivation method this was. Mr. Chi, you also know that shadow clone shares the memory of the main body, so if I use shadow clone to help me practice together, wouldn't it be possible to speed up my practice? Dong Shenyao did not hide it. After all, this method is not anyone can use it. Kai Uehara is worthy of being an elite jonin. He never thought about it before, but after being reminded by Dong Shenyao, Kai Uehara quickly understood the principle. Yao, you're a genius. By the way, you didn't practice like this before, did you? Yes, I have always cultivated like this. Dong Shenyao said as he should. Then I'll give it a try. If possible, Yao, you will be the hero of our Konoha village. After that, Kai Uehara didn't delay, and quickly set up a shadow clone to start practicing. Although this method is theoretically applicable to anyone, after all, there is only one example of Dong Shenyao, which is too unconvincing, so Uehara plans to try it himself. If it is really successful, then this method can be popularized, and the ninja strength of Konoha village can be improved by leaps and bounds. Think about it, no matter how poor your talent is, if your cultivation time is twice or even 10 times as long as other people's, isn't it still a genius? 2 hours later, Uehara couldn't wait to cancel Shadow Clone, and a memory suddenly passed over, which made Keiichi Uehara happy, because he found that this method was feasible. It's just that Uehara's brows furrowed quickly. It's so tiring. By the way, what Shadow Clone conveys is not only memory, but also feelings. That is to say, although you can gain several times the speed of cultivation, the fatigue is also multiplied, which is a bit troublesome. After personal experience afterwards, Uehara soon realized the drawbacks of this cultivation method. Before, he practiced for 2 hours, which was considered a bonus from Shadow Clone, which was equal to 4 hours of practice, but now he consumes a lot of chakra, and his body is very tired and has to rest for a while before he can continue to practice. According to Uehara's inference, he now has to rest for at least 2 hours before he can recover. In this way, the extra 2 hours that I had before went back all of a sudden. It seems that this method does have drawbacks, but how did Yao overcome it? Does he have any tricks? Thinking of this, Uehara could only ask Dongshin Yao for advice again. After listening to Uehara's remarks, Toshin Yao couldn't help but said with a puzzled face, "Although I am very tired, I will recover as long as I rest for a while." Although Toshin Yao said it simply, Uehara already understood it. Sure enough, this method cannot be used arbitrarily. Without a special constitution, if it is used, the efficiency is very low, and it may even be dangerous. Thinking of this, Uehara couldn't help showing a disappointed look on his face. After all, this represented Konoha hopes for the village to become stronger quickly were dashed. Although it was found that the drawbacks of using Shadow Clone are not small, Uehara was not ready to give up easily, so Uehara kept trying in the next few days while observing Dongshin Yao. 10 days passed in a flash, and there was only 1 day left before Chunin's third game, and Uehara completely gave up the Shadow Clone cultivation method. Because he found that this method is not only useless for ordinary ninjas, but also dangerous, because if the control is not good, I am afraid that a ninja can be directly exhausted. Desperation, Uehara had no choice but to give up, but he still told Senju Tobarama about this method. After all, although most ninjas can't use this method, it can be used by people with special physique, like Toshin Yao. Senju Tobarama was pleasantly surprised when he learned that Dongshin Yao had invented such a cultivation method. Shadow Clone was invented by Senju Tobarama. Now that Shadow Clone has been applied to practice and has such great help, Senju Tobarama is of course happy, and at the same time pays more attention to Dongshin Yao. It seems that after Chunin's exam is over, he can be called home for a meal. Little Tsunade is about his age, if he can marry him. Thinking of this, Senju Tobarama laughed disrespectfully. Konoha village is the brainchild of Senju Hashirama, so Senju Tobarama hopes to carry it forward. And if a village wants to grow without the help of a genius, Senju Tobarama is going to tie the genius of Dongshin Yao to the chariot of Konoha. Dongshin Yao did not know that the great Hokage-sama was already preparing to use the beauty trick on him. At this time, all of Dongshin Yao's energy has been put on the selection of Chunin. On this day, the third exam of Chunin's selection has finally arrived. Chapter 75 Conflict. Regarding the location of Chunin's third exam, Uehara had already informed him yesterday, so Dongshin Yao got up early in the morning and had breakfast, and went straight to the exam location. In order not to waste time, the three of Dongshin Yao did not gather today, and they all went to the test site alone. Walking on the streets of Konoha village, looking at the peaceful scene around him, though not very prosperous, Dongshin Yao's mouth unknowingly evoked a smile. Now such a village is indeed worth protecting with life. It's a pity. Thinking of the intrigue in Konoha village in the later stage of Hokage, Toshin Yao couldn't help sighing. He doesn't deny Danzo's contribution to the village, but he doesn't deny the damage he's done to Konoha. Although Danzo also loves Konoha very much, Tashinyao can see Danzo's selfish character. And just when Dong Shenyao was thinking about things, a sudden burst of crying alarmed him. Huh. Looking up at the place where the cry came from, Dong Shenyao found that a teenager was bullying a child. I saw that the boy who was about 12 or 13 years old was carrying the collar of a child who was no more than 3 or 4 years old and lifted him directly. And the cry came from the child's mouth. And since it was still early, there were no pedestrians on the street, so no one cared about it at all. Stop. Although I don't know what happened in 690 between the two, it's not right to bully children, so Dong Shenyao is also ready to take care of this business. Huh. Hearing the shout, the boy turned his head to look at Dong Shenyao. Little devil, don't meddle in your own business, the boy said with a gloomy face. At the same time, Dong Shenyao was stunned, because he found that the boy had a forehead guard on his head, apparently a ninja. But not from Konoha village, but from Iwagakure village. Let him go. Dong Shenyao glared at the young man with a cold face. I won't let go, what can you do to me? Speaking of which, the young man raised his hand provocatively and was about to beat the child in his hand. Whoosh. Bang. Figure flashed by, and the hand raised by the boy Iwagakure was directly caught by Dong Shenyao. Okay, fast. The Iwagakure was stunned, because he found that he couldn't see Dong Shenyao's movements clearly. I'll let you go, Dongshin said, staring at the young Iwagakure with a dazzling cold light. What are you going to do? The boy Iwagakure shuddered after looking at Dong Shenyao. From Dong Shenyao's eyes, he saw the killing intent, and the aura on Dong Shenyao also made Iwagakure's heart palpitate, so he even stuttered when he spoke. Seeing that the Iwagakure boy didn't let go, Dong Shenyao was not polite to him. After all, the Chunin exam was about to start, and Dong Shenyao had limited time. Bang! Dong Shenyao punched the Iwagakure boy on the wrist, and under the pain, the Iwagakure boy directly released the child. Seeing that the child was about to fall to the ground, Dong Shenyao quickly caught him. Little brother, are you all right? Dong Shenyao asked with concern after putting the child on the ground. Thank you big brother, I'm fine. After being stunned for a while, the child quickly thanked Dong Shenyao. You're welcome. Come on, little brother, go home. Well, goodbye eldest brother. Said, the child hurriedly ran away. Apparently the boy Iwagakure's actions just scared him. Watching the white-haired child run away, Dong Shenyao turned to look at the Iwagakure boy. Is it all like this in your Iwagakure village, to bully a child? HMPH, you dare to hit me, don't think that this is Konoha and you can be arrogant. Iwagakure said viciously. I think it's you who is arrogant. Even knowing that this is Konoha, you dare to commit murder in the street. Dong Shenyao stared at the young Iwagakure and said. Iwagakure boy was also a little worried in the face of Dong Shenyao's questioning, but he thought that he was frightened by Dong Shenyao's eyes just now, and then was attacked by Dong Shenyao, which made Iwagakure feel very ashamed, so he wanted to find it back. Face. Boy, it seems that you are going to take over this beam. Don't think that you just attacked me very well. Now I will show you the strength of our Iwagakure. Saying that, the Iwagakure boy punched Dongshin directly. Yow. Dong Shenyao wouldn't mind playing with him at another time, but the Chunin exam was about to start, so Dong Shenyao didn't have much time to waste. Huh. The boy Iwagakure punched his fist just now, but Tashinyao's figure had disappeared. Where? The young Iwagakure trembled in his heart, and a bad premonition suddenly arose. He didn't dare to hesitate, and he hurriedly searched for Dongshin Yaolai. Are you looking for me? S voice suddenly came from behind the boy Iwagakure, but before he could react, he felt as if his back had been hit by a hammer. Whoosh. I saw Iwagakure's body flew out directly, and finally fell a dog and ate shit. This is a lesson for you, remember that we Konoha are not easy to mess with. After speaking, Dong Shenyao walked away directly. Damn, you wait for me. The boy Iwagakure said viciously while lying on the ground watching Dong Shenyao leave. Standing outside the number 0 training ground in Konoha village, which is the exam room where Chunin selected the third exam this time, Dong Shenyao was excited. Because whether it can become Chunin depends on this day. Although Chunin is just a title, his strength has already surpassed Chunin, but Dong Shenyao still yearns for it very much. After all, the title of Chunin also represents the affirmation of his strength. Taking a deep breath, Dong Shenyao walked towards the training ground number 0. After confirming his identity at the gatekeeper ninja, Ta Shinyo stepped into the training ground. After passing through a long corridor, the surrounding space suddenly became clear, and at the same time, bursts of noisy sounds poured into my ears. The number 0 training ground is very huge. In the center is an open space with an area of tens of thousands of square meters. This open space has a complex terrain, there are many trees around, and even a water pool and a hill are built, which is comparable to the one in the original book. The venue for the Chunin exam is much more perfect, and obviously Konoha village has put a lot of effort into this exam. Around the open space are the stands. At this time, the stands are already full of people, obviously all the audience. Only the due east is still empty at this time. Yao, come here quickly. As Dong Shenyao looked around, a familiar voice sounded. Looking in the direction from which the voice came, Ta Shinyo found that Kimura Fumino was shaking his arms towards him. Chapter 76 Provocative. Seeing Kimura Fumino calling himself, Dong Shenyao stopped observing and walked over. Yao, why are you here so late? Xiaojun and I have already arrived. Kimura Fumino said casually when he saw Dong Shenyao approaching. It's nothing, it's just that something happened on the way. Seeing that Dong Shenyao said lightly, Kimura Fumino didn't take it seriously, and instead chatted with Dong Shenyao about other things. And just when Dong Shenyao and Kimura Fumino were having a good chat, Dong Shenyao noticed that someone was approaching him. He didn't think too much, just dodged subconsciously, but even so, in 1 second he was still hit after that. Dong Shenyao didn't expect that the person who hit him was strong, and he stumbled directly under the impact. Before Dong Shenyao could see who hit him, he heard an annoying voice. Hey, do you have eyes? Do you know that a good dog can't stand in the way? Before Ta Shinyo could speak, Kudo Shun quit. Now Dong Shenyao is his idol, and the idol is insulted, how can Kudo Shun take it? Who are you, do you talk like that? And Yao he is standing well, you bumped into it on your own initiative. Where did you run out of, kid? Did your door not close properly that made you run out? Damn, Kudo Jun was furious, and no matter where this place was, he raised his hand to hit the person who dared to insult them. The provocateur did not have a trace of fear at this time, but instead looked eager to try. Just when Kudo Jun raised his hand to hit, his arm was stopped by Dong Shenyao. Okay, Xiaojun, it's not worth being angry for this kind of person. After speaking, Dong Shenyao glanced at the provocative person contemptuously. At this point, he had already seen who had hit him. This person is not old, about 12 or 13 years old, with yellow hair and a reckless look, obviously not a good thing. At the same time, Dong Shenyao also discovered that the forehead guard on this person's head belonged to the village of Iwagakure. You cowards, I knew that the people in Konoha village are all softballs. Seeing that Kudo Shun was stopped, a look of disappointment flashed in the defiant Iwagakure's eyes, and at the same time he did not forget to sneer. It's not up to you whether you're a coward or not. At least we, Konoha, are recognized as the #1 ninja village in the world, stronger than your Iwagakure village. Dong Shenyao countered. Of this Iwagakure, Ta Shinyao's words can be said to be talking about his pain point. Although Iwagakure village is also recognized as one of the 5 major ninja villages, its strength can only be regarded as medium and cannot be compared with Konoha at all. Don't tell me, boy, are you just using your tongue? Iwagakure said a little annoyed. I think you can talk about yourself. You don't do anything here for a long time. Are you afraid of our Konoha? Dong Shenyao sneered. This time, the name Iwagakure was completely angry, and no matter where he was now, he directly raised his foot and kicked Dong Shenyao. Had already taken precautions, so when he saw Iwagakure's shot, Dong Xianyao also moved and kicked out the same way. Dong Xianyao was extremely fast, and even came first. Iwagakur's foot had just been lifted, and Dong Xianyao had already kicked him in the leg. He didn't keep his hand in the slightest, and the huge force not only disintegrated Iwagakur's attack, but also made Iwagakur stand unsteady and fall to the ground. "Ah, my leg!" Iwagakur cried out in pain as he fell to the ground and hugged his leg. "Okay, Yao, you played really well." Seeing this, Kudo-shun immediately cheered for fear that the world would not be in chaos. All of a sudden, all the ninjas around him were attracted. Iwagakur who fell to the ground, many people had doubts in their eyes. They didn't know how someone fell before the game started. But those who knew the inside story showed gloating. After all, it was Iwagakur who provoked the first, but now he suffered a loss, which made many people look down on that Iwagakur. "You said that you don't have the strength to provoke anything indiscriminately." He was a ninja, and his strength was not weak. Soon the name Iwagakur recovered a little, and immediately stood up against the pain. "Boy, I'm going to kill you." Looking at Dong Xianyao's disdainful expression, the name Iwagakur wanted to shoot. "Enough to stop the show, do you want to continue to be ashamed?" At this moment, a majestic voice sounded, directly stopping Iwagakur. Apparently the Iwagakur, named Shojong, knew the person who was speaking, and was terrified of him. So after hearing the scolding, I could only give Dong Xianyao a vicious look, and then stopped talking. Soon a teenager with an Iwagakur forehead came over. However, unlike the rebellious show, this Iwagakur boy has a calm expression on his face, which makes it impossible to see what he is thinking. "What are you doing in Shojong?" Iwagakur asked as he walked over to Shojong. "Master Yang, this kid is the Konoha ninja who beat Yurin." "I am avenging Yurin," Shojong said a little aggrieved. "It's him." After realizing what happened, Yangtai couldn't help but glance at Dong Xianyao with a bad look. Dong Xianyao also heard Shojong's words, but he was a little puzzled and didn't know who that Yurin was. "Boy, it seems that you look down on our Iwagakur village very much, and you even beat us 2 ninjas in a row." Iwagakur, a young man known as Mrs. Yang, looked directly at Dong Xianyao. "Who is Yurin?" Dong Xianyao questioned. Yangtai didn't speak, just turned his head and shouted behind him, "Yurin, come here." Not long after the voice fell, an Iwagakur came over. After seeing the person who came, Dong Xianyao also understood everything. The one who came was the Iwagakur who Ta Xianyao taught him on the way. "Yurin, is this the one who hit you before?" Yangtai pointed at Dong Xianyao and asked. "That's right, this is the one who hit me. Big brother, you want to avenge me?" Yuren first gave Dong Xianyao a vicious look, and then quickly pleaded with Yangtai. "Boy, didn't you admit it on 4.8? Yangtai asked, looking at Dong Xianyao. "That's right, this person was indeed beaten by me," Dong Xianyao said indifferently. "Dare to hit my brother, I remember you." Yangtai looked at Dong Xianyao with murderous eyes. "Aren't you going to know why I hit him?" Dong Xianyao asked. No matter why, Yurin is my younger brother. Since you hit him, I will kill you." Speaking of this, a murderous aura emanated from Yangtai. Dong Xianyao was not angry, but rather admired Yangtai. Although the two sides were now enemies, Dong Xianyao agreed that Yangtai could stand out for his younger brother. If it was him, he would do the same. Of course, appreciation is for appreciation. If the two really meet, Dong Xianyao will not be merciful. Chapter 77 Exam begins. Facing Yangtai's murderous aura, Dong Xianyao was not afraid, but this murderous aura aroused Dong Xianyao's fighting spirit. "Yotai, if you want to avenge your brother, come here, I'll do it next." "Okay," as expected of the person who dared to hit my brother, but he has some courage. "I hope you don't meet me during the exam later, or I will make you regret coming into this world." Yangtai threatened. He was still a little sensible and knew that now was not the time to do something, so he didn't immediately teach Dong Xianyao a lesson. "I'm waiting for you. Let's go." After taking a deep look at Dong Xianyao, Yangtai turned around and left with a few Iwagakur. Yao is too arrogant. If you meet him on the court for a while, you must give him a hard lesson and let him know that our Konoha ninjas are not easy to mess with. After Yangtai left, Kudo-jun said angrily. Don't worry, I'll let him know how good I am. Dong Shenyao narrowed his eyes slightly. Soon the time came to 9 o'clock, and the exam time officially arrived, and the third exam chief examiner Haku Jiming, who had appeared once at the end of the second exam, also came to the center of the venue. Okay, everyone be quiet. Hayes Jiming called out to the ninjas who were still chatting there after he appeared. Hearing Changgu Jiming's shout, Dong Shenyao and the others stopped. All the candidates taking the exam, please come forward, and the rest please wait in the stands. Hayes Jiming said after glancing at Dong Shenyao. Everyone. There were only 14 ninjas who participated in the third test, but there were 30 or 40 people standing here at this time. Obviously, most of them were accompanied. Hearing Hayes Jiming's words, the ninjas who had already lost their qualifications for the exam left one after another, and the field suddenly became empty, leaving only 14 candidates and the examiner. Very well, now come to me one by one to confirm the identity. Hearing Hayes Jiming's words, a ninja quickly walked over with an identity certificate. Due to the small number of people, it didn't take long for everyone's identities to be confirmed. There was no substitute exam. Seeing this, Changji Jiming smiled with satisfaction, turned to the stand on the east side and shouted, Master Hokage, everything is ready, you can start. Hearing Hayes Jiming's shout, the second-generation Hokage Senju Tobarama stood up from the chair. As the organizer of this Chunin exam, Senju Tobarama certainly has to say a few words. Dear guests, thank you for coming to Konoha Village to watch this Chunin exam during your busy schedule. On behalf of all the villagers in Konoha Village, I would like to welcome you all. Senju Tobarama's voice instantly spread under the influence of ninjutsu the entire training ground zero. Although people from Iwagakure Village and Sunagakure Village also came for the Chunin exam this time, it was not like the Chunin exam in the original book, and even the shadow of the village came. In the original book, Sunagakure Village happened to be an ally of Konoha, or a vassal, so it came. But now Konoha is at war with Iwagakure Village and Sunagakure Village. How dare the shadows of the two villages come at this time? If one is not good, it is easy to be surrounded and killed by the people of Konoha Village. Okay, I know you're all in a hurry, and I'm not talking nonsense anymore. Now I officially announce that the third exam for Chunin selection has officially started. As Senju Tobarama's voice fell, the audience cheered again. It's true that they came here to watch the game, and no one wants to listen to Senju Tobarama's long speeches there. I'll leave everything to Jonin. After saying that, Senju Tobarama returned to his seat and sat down. Under Hokage's instructions, Hayes Jiming also acted. Before the exam officially starts, I want to say that although killing is not advocated, after all, fists and feet have no eyes, so if there are casualties, you can only blame yourself for being unlucky. Now you all come to draw lots to determine your opponents. I saw Changgu Jiming took out a seal scroll, opened it and lifted the seal, and suddenly there was something similar to a lottery box. Everyone, look at me, I look at you, and in the end, Kudo-shun, who is relatively straight, was the first to walk over. Since you're not going, then I'll come. Walking to the box, Kudo-jun directly reached in and took out a note. After taking out the note, Kudo-jun opened it on the spot and saw a letter, B, written on the note. With the first one, there will be a second one. After Kudo-shun went down, someone went up to draw the number. Soon all the 14 candidates were drawn. Among them, Fumino Kimura drew the letter, F, and Tashinyao drew, D. After putting away the box, Hayes Jiming glanced at everyone and said, now I'll talk about the rules of the test. Everyone should have seen the numbers in their hands. The next two people who draw the same number will have a test, and the winner will be the last one. You can enter the next round of exams, and those who lose can only be eliminated. Okay, no more nonsense, now please stay with the two people who drew the letter, A, and everyone else should go to the rest area and wait. Wen Yi, Brother Jun, let's go. After Dong Shenyao greeted the two of them directly, he took the lead in walking towards the rest area. The so-called rest area is actually a circle of open space in front of the surrounding stands, which is a place for candidates to rest. Soon the rest of the ninjas left, leaving only the examiner Hayes Kai-ming and two contestants on the ground in field 043. To Dong Shenyao's surprise, one of the two candidates in the first match was Yang Tai, who had just clashed with him. Exactly, let's see how strong he is. Although Dong Shenyao thinks that his strength is not bad and has few opponents among his peers, he will not despise his opponents because of this. Okay, now I'm announcing the start of the game. After speaking, Hayes Jiming left the field with a flash. At this moment, the entire venue belonged to two candidates. You admit defeat. Yang Tai looked directly at his opponent and said, "Boy, you are too arrogant. Don't think that you are from Iwagakure village and you can ignore me. Today I will let you know what it means to respect seniors." Yang Tai's opponent shouted angrily. Yang Tai is only 13 or 14 years old, but his opponent seems to be 16 or 17 years old. He is despised by people younger than himself, which makes Yang Tai's opponent not angry. Whoosh! Yang Tai's opponent directly flew up and rushed towards Yang Tai. Yang Tai was not seen dodging either. When his opponent approached, Yang Tai turned sideways and directly avoided the enemy's attack. Immediately afterwards, the balcony arm was bent, and the elbow was used to hit the opponent's heart. Bang! Chapter 78 Toshin Kudo's Battle. Bang! A blow was blocked, which surprised Yang Tai. Yang Tai thought that his strength was enough to kill the opponent in one move, but now he was embarrassed, and the blow he was determined to win was blocked. It seems that I underestimate you. Yang Tai looked at his opponent and said. Yang Tai's opponent is a small ninja village. Although the village is not well known, the people who can come here are not mediocre. It can only be said that Mrs. Yang is too arrogant and doesn't take anyone seriously. Not just underestimating, I want to beat you. Said, the ninja launched a counterattack. I saw this ninja from the small ninja village kick directly to the lower plate of Yang Tai. To the surprise of the ninja, Yang Tai didn't dodge or dodge, allowing him to kick himself. Bang! It can be seen from the sound that this foot is very powerful, but Yang Tai has not moved. Looking at his opponent, after kicking Zhang Yang Tai, his face was first happy, but it changed quickly. Ah! A cry of pain came out, and the ninja jumped up on the spot holding his feet. Just now he felt like he was kicked on a steel plate. Seeing that the opponent had a flaw, Yang Tai didn't mean to be polite at all, and shot directly. At this time, the ninja of the small ninja village was holding his feet and screaming, and it was too late to resist Yang Tai's attack. Maybe it was because he felt ashamed of this person just now. Yang Tai didn't hold back at all this time, and directly stabbed the ninja with a kunai. PFF'd. Blood splattered everywhere, and the kunai stabbed directly into the ninja's neck. When Yang Tai took back his kunai, the ninja from the small ninja village suddenly fell to the ground, gurgling blood gushing out of the wound, and it seemed that it was going to die. Huh! Hayes Jiming came to the arena and checked the little ninja village ninja before announcing, the winner of the first game is Yoda from Iwagakure village. Wow! Immediately, many audience members from the land of the land cheered in the stands, and the show who had conflicted with Dong Shenyao before gave Dong Shenyao a provocative look, as if to say, look at how good our boss is, you better hurry up. Beg for mercy. Dong Shenyao just gave Shojong a cold look, then turned his head to continue watching the game. In the next game, one of the players was Kudo Jun. In the rest area, the Death Ninja's companion glared at Yang Tai fiercely. If his eyes could kill, Yang Tai would be dead. Soon Yang Tai came to the rest area, and the killed ninja had also been moved away. Seeing this, Hayes Jiming shouted, the second game begins, please come on the B player. Come on, Brother Jun. Come on Jun. Ta Xinyao and the two cheered Kudo Shun one after another. Don't worry, I will try my best. After speaking, Kudo Shun turned around and went off. Soon Kudo Shun and a ninja stood opposite each other on the field. This is a ninja from Sunagakure village. As a person from Da Ninja village, and he can enter the third exam, his strength is definitely not bad. Sadong Shenyao and both are worried for Kudo-shun. Hello, my name is Kudo-jun, from Konoha village, please give me some advice. Kudo-jun looked very polite and took the initiative to say hello. The ninja from Sunagakure village couldn't help but be stunned when he saw Kudo-jun's actions, but he quickly realized that although the two sides were about to fight for a while, since the other party was so polite, if he didn't return the salute, it would be hard for people to say the people of Sunagakure village are all impolite people. My name is Ben, from Sunagakure village, please advise. Seeing that the two had greeted each other, Hayes Jiming directly announced the start of the game. Kudo-jun has some understanding of Sunagakure, and knows that Sunagakure is good at puppet technique. Although he doesn't know whether this book can be puppet technique, but as a physique ninja, Kudo-jun will not give the other party a chance to shoot first. Whoosh whoosh. There was a sound of breaking the air, and Kudo-jun threw more than a dozen shuriken as soon as he came up, trying to contain the book. In the face of the incoming shuriken, he could only give up the hand seal and use the kunai in his hand to resist the shuriken's attack. Just hearing a ding 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 dong sound, more than a dozen shurikens were quickly knocked to the ground. But at this time Kudo-shun's goal has been achieved, because he has taken the opportunity to get close to the book. Konoha whirlwind. Kudo-shun directly raised his leg and kicked it to the side. Bang! Ben Cheng raised his arm to resist, and the huge force made his body stagger a few steps toward the other side. Kudo-shun took the opportunity to launch a fierce attack. Good. Seeing that Kudo-shun had the upper hand, the people in Konoha village, who were watching the battle, applauded. On the other hand, the faces of those from the land of wind are a bit ugly. In the blink of an eye, the two fought several tricks, and faced with Kudo-jun's pressing step by step, the one who had been beaten had no power to fight back. In the end, Kudo-jun seized the opportunity and kicked him in the abdomen, and he flew out. Bang! The book fell to the ground, causing a puff of smoke. Kudo-shun did not let his guard down at this time. He knew that such a blow was not enough to make the opponent lose his combat effectiveness. Sure enough, the next moment a whirlwind swept out from the smoke. It's Datapa, great breakthrough. Kudo-shun recognized at a glance that this was AC rank futon, wind style, ninjutsu Datapa, great breakthrough. When the whirlwind hit, Kudo-shun had to dodge, which also made Kudo-shun lose the opportunity to continue chasing Ben. It's up to me now, he said fiercely, wiping the blood from the corners of his mouth. Futon, wind style, vacuum sphere. Ben Cheng opened his mouth and spit, and suddenly a bullet-like wind ball shot out and went straight to Kudo-jun. This wind ball is extremely fast, but Kudo-jun is not giving it for nothing. As a taiju ninja, his speed is even faster. Huh. I saw Kudo-shun dodging left and right, and while constantly evading this attack, he was also narrowing the distance between the two. However, this is not stupid either, attacking Kudo-jun while retreating, not giving Kudo-jun a chance to approach. At first, Kudo-jun was able to evade the attack from the book, but after a long time, Kudo-jun consumed a lot of physical strength, and the speed suddenly slowed down. Seeing this book, he knew that the opportunity was coming. Used the vacuum sphere to attack Kudo-shun again, and after Kudo-shun revealed his flaws, he was rude and used a high-level ninjutsu directly. Futon, wind style, crushing. The same wind sphere, but futon, wind style, injury is not comparable to the vacuum sphere in terms of power and range. In an instant, a large typhoon directly hit Shun Kudo. A burst of smoke rose into the sky, blocking Kudo-jun's figure, but I believe that Kudo-jun would be seriously injured if he didn't die. Doden, earth style, decapitation in the heart. Suddenly, the ground under Ben's feet cracked, and an arm stretched out. Without the slightest reaction, Ben pulled him into the dirt. At this time, Ben Cheng was stunned, and he didn't understand where the attack at his feet came from. Chapter 79 Tashinyao appears. This book never thought that someone would attack him from the ground, because it seemed that Kudo-shun had already been hit hard by him. But when Bensheng came to his senses, it was over. He was pulled into the soil, only his head was exposed, and a handle of kunwu was already placed on his neck. Basically, I am sure that if I have the slightest change, this kunai will immediately launch a deadly attack. Although he was eager to win, he cherished his life more, so he had no choice but to admit defeat. I admit defeat. As soon as Bensheng's voice fell, Hei's Jimin came to the field with a flashing technique, and then directly rescued Bensheng. Now I declare that this battle is won by Toshi Kudo of Konoha village. Hearing that he had won, Kudo-shun let out a long sigh of relief, and as his body relaxed, he sat directly on the ground. Just now, his physical strength was not small, and he had been holding on until now. How on earth did you do it? Ben asked, looking at Jun Kudo unwillingly. You attacked my clone just now. Kudo-jun didn't hide it, and directly explained his countermeasures. It turned out to be a clone. After learning the truth of the matter, Bensheng couldn't help but smile bitterly. Although the 040 clone is not an entity like Shadow Clone, it is difficult to tell which is the main body if you don't touch it. Just now, Kudo-jun just confuses the book through the clone, and he himself sneaked into the underground. After all, he is a disciple of Kai Uehara. Even though Kudo-shun is a physique-type ninja, he can still do some simple Doden, Earth-style ninjutsu. At the end of the second game, Kudo-shun and the two left the venue one after another. Then the third game started. Both sides of this game Dong Shenyao did not know each other, but one of them was from Shaonan village, and the other was from Konoha village, but this person had never met Dong Shenyao before. This game is not very exciting. The whole process of the game can be summed up in 2 words, that is, rolling. The ninja from Konoha village is obviously much stronger than his opponent. From Dong Shenyao's point of view, his strength is at least an elite Chunin, while his opponent's ninja from Shao Ninja village is only as strong as Chunin. Obviously, in the second test, this person had a bad luck and didn't meet a strong team. The entire battle lasted less than 3 minutes and ended, but there were no casualties in this game. The fourth game begins. Please leave the 2 players. The number Dong Shenyao drew was D, so after hearing Hei's Chiaki's words, Dong Shenyao turned around and walked down the stairs at the back. This time Ta Shenyao's opponent is also a Sunagaker. Seeing this, Toshi Kudo couldn't help laughing and said, our group has a good relationship with Sunagaker. Yao actually met Sunagaker. This time Sunagaker is going to be unlucky, and he actually met Yao. Xiaojun, don't be careless. Although you won just now, there are also reasons for the enemy to underestimate the enemy. These Sunagakers are not weak. Kimura Fumino reprimanded. I see. Although he said that, it was clear from Kudo-shun's appearance that he obviously didn't take Kimura Fumino's words to heart. Seeing this, Kimura Fumino was also a little helpless. Below, Ta Shenyao and Sunagaker had already announced their names to each other. At this time, Ta Shenyao learned that his opponent was called Mirai, who was about 15 or 16 years old. As for the strength, because they haven't fought yet, so I can't see it, but judging by the imposing manner that leaked out vaguely, it is at least an elite Chunin, and the real strength is probably stronger than Dong Shenyao guessed. After the two greeted each other, Dong Shenyao was not polite, and threw a kunai in a test-like manner. And Mirai did not dodge, and directly took off the package behind him and blocked it in front of him. Bang! With a muffled sound, Kuwu stabbed directly at the package that came from Gao. From the first sight of Mirai, Dong Shenyao focused his attention on the package behind him. At this time, seeing Mirai and taking down the package as soon as possible, Dong Shenyao confirmed his guess. Huh! I saw Mirai shaking his hand, and the white cloth wrapped around his hand suddenly cracked, and then a puppet was exposed. It really is a puppet master. Dong Shenyao's expression was particularly solemn. This was the first time he faced a puppet master, so he was a little nervous. It's not that he has no confidence in his own strength, but that the unknown is awe-inspiring after all. Yao is in a bit of trouble. I didn't expect him to meet a puppet master. Kimura Fumino's face was not very good looking. Yeah, puppet masters are the best at bullying less, and I don't know if Yao can stand it. Kudo Jun echoed. At the same time, Yang Tai looked at Dong Shenyao off the field with a sneer. In his opinion, it must be Dong Shenyao who lost this game. No reason, just because he doesn't like Dong Shenyao, he is so willful. This is the first time I have met a puppet master, I hope you won't let me down. Don't worry, I will show you the power of the puppet master, but unfortunately, this is the last time you will face the puppet master. Mirai said murderously. If you want to kill me, it depends on whether you have the ability. After speaking, Dong Shenyao moved directly. The strength of the puppet master is basically concentrated on the puppet, so the best way to fight the puppet master is to kill the puppet master directly. Without the control of the puppet master, no matter how powerful the puppet is, it is just a pile of waste. At this time, Dong Shenyao did just that. I saw Dong Shenyao exerting strength under his feet, and instantly rushed towards Mirai. Dong Shenyao's speed is extremely fast, and the eyesight of ordinary people can't keep up. Even some chunin only see a silhouette flashing by. Bang! Mirai reacted quickly, and at the moment when Dong Shenyao disappeared from his sight, he had already moved the puppet behind him. Sure enough, the figure of Ta Shenyao appeared behind Mirai at the next moment, and punched the puppet at the same time. What a pity! Dong Shenyao felt sorry to see the attack failed. It's my turn. Mirai was not polite to Ta Shenyao either. Under his control, the mouth of the humanoid puppet opened instantly, and then a kunai shot towards Ta Shenyao. At this time, Dong Shenyao and the puppet were close at hand, but fortunately, he reacted quickly and turned his head in an instant, thus avoiding kunai's attack. But even so, he still had a few hairs cut off by kunai. It's dangerous. At this time, Dong Shenyao didn't dare to stay any longer, and hurriedly walked away from Mirai. Dong Shenyao was hiding, but Mirai was not ready to let him go. I saw the puppet chase after Dong Shenyao under the control of Mirai. Dong Shenyao was fast, but the speed of the puppet was even faster. In a blink of an eye, it was already close to Dong Shenyao. Then, the puppet raised its arm and aimed at Dong Shenyao. The next moment, the attack was already launched. Chapter 80 Violent Disassembly Part 1. After the puppet caught up with Dong Shenyao, he directly raised his arm, and then Dong Shenyao saw a small hole opened in the puppet's palm. Seeing this scene, Dong Shenyao knew it was going to be bad. Sure enough, countless thousands of books shot out from the small hole in the next moment. The densely packed thousands of books hit Dong Shenyao like a tide. The speed of these 1,000 books was extremely fast, and they were very close to Dong Shenyao. At this time, Dong Shenyao's solid basic skills were revealed. Boom! Hundreds of thousands of copies hit Dong Shenyao almost at the same time, and in an instant Dong Shenyao had turned into a hedgehog. Yow! Seeing this scene, Kudo Jun, who was watching the battle from above, suddenly exclaimed. On the other hand, although Kimura Fumino was a little nervous, he was not worried. He is not as brainless as Kudo Shun, but Kimura Fumino remembers the battle between Ta Shenyao and Uehara Kai not long ago, and even now he is still shocked by Ta Shenyao's unpredictable hand-seal speed. Many people in the surrounding Konoha village are also worried about Dong Shenyao, not because they know Dong Shenyao, but because everyone is from the same village. In a corner of the stand, a man and a woman were sitting there. Since the beginning of this battle, the woman has been extremely nervous. After seeing Dong Shenyao being hit by Chinbin, the woman clenched her fists and her face was extremely pale. Just when many people were worried about Dong Shenyao, they only heard a bang explosion, and then saw a puff of smoke appearing around Dong Shenyao. The smoke dissipated quickly, revealing a stone filled with thousands of books. Damn earth doubles. Seeing this scene, Mirai couldn't help cursing. Seeing that the lore attack he designed was actually avoided by Dong Shenyao using a soil substitute, which made Mirai very unwilling. And he knew that with this attack, it would be difficult to find such a good opportunity in the future. What a fast hand seal speed, it seems that he will be a formidable enemy of mine. On the stand, Yang Tai's expression also became solemn. Although he hates Dong Shenyao and is very confident in his own strength, he is not the kind of blindly arrogant person. Don't look at his mouth and say that he doesn't take Dong Shenyao to heart, but his heart is still more important to him. Hand seal speed displayed by Dong Shenyao attracted Yang Tai's attention. Dodging Qinbin's attack, Dong Shenyao also let out a long sigh of relief. It was just really scary. Although he had other ways to block Qinbin's attack, that would undoubtedly reveal a lot of trump cards, which was certainly not what Dong Shenyao wanted to see. Fortunately, at the last moment, the soil stand-in was successfully launched. At this time, Dong Shenyao's real body has already sneaked into the ground, and sneaked towards Mirai. Seeing that the trace of Dong Shenyao was lost, Mirai did not dare to be careless, and quickly moved the puppet to his side to prevent Dong Shenyao from launching a surprise attack on him. Doden, Earth-style, decapitation in the heart. Suddenly, the ground at the foot of Mirai cracked, and an arm stuck out. Before Mirai could react, he had already pulled him into the ground. Immediately, Mirai's entire body was buried in the soil, with only his head still exposed. You lost. With a smug smile, Dong Shenyao stabbed Kuwu directly into Mirai's neck. Bang! What? Dong Shenyao couldn't help being stunned when Kuwu stabbed Mirai's neck. Because Kuwu was actually blocked, and he didn't stab in as he expected. Bang! There was an explosion, and smoke suddenly appeared from Mirai's body under the ground. At the same time, the puppet who had just been motionless suddenly stretched out his arm, and saw that he was holding a kunai in his hand, and went straight to Dong Shenyao and stabbed it. Just when the Kuwu thorn in the puppet's hands was shining, the smoke on the ground had dissipated, and the original village well disappeared, and it was replaced by a puppet. No, you was fooled. Kudo Shun was relieved just now that Dong Shenyao escaped Qinbin's attack, and now he is nervous again after seeing another change on the field. At this time, Kimura Fumino looked at Kudo Shun speechless. He wanted to say, "Can't you have some confidence in Yao?" Although Kimura Fumino couldn't see through the battle situation on the field, he believed that it was impossible for Dong Shenyao to lose so easily. Sure enough, although Kunwu pierced Dong Shenyao's body this time, the next moment Dong Shenyao had turned into a clay figurine, and then the clay figurine melted and turned into a pool of mud. It turned out to be a soil clone. At this time, Mirai had also changed back from his puppet appearance. Looking at the puddle of dirt on the ground, Mirai had a bad premonition in his heart. Before he could think about it, Mirai hurriedly pulled out the puppet that was still buried in the soil, but the puppet had just emerged from the ground, but the figure of Dong Shenyao had already appeared behind Mirai. At this moment, Mirai was unaware, and just as he was about to look for the figure of Dong Shenyao, a kunai had been stabbed in his back. Bang! The huge force directly knocked Mirai out. It's just that Dong Shenyao was not happy at all at this time, because just now, Kunwu didn't pierce into Mirai's body, but as if he was stabbed into a steel plate. Could this not be the real body? Dong Shenyao had a doubt in his heart. His questions didn't last long, though, and Akatsuki was soon answered. Mirai, who flew more than 10 meters away, threw a dog and ate shit. But he wasn't hurt, so he got up quickly. Very well, it seems that your strength is indeed qualified for me to use all my strength. After saying that, Mirai even unbuttoned his clothes. The next moment, when Mirai's body under his clothes was revealed, many people gasped. I saw that many parts of Mirai's body were no longer human bodies, but puppet-like materials. Is it a human puppet? Tashinyao was surprised at first, but he soon discovered that Mirai's body was different from the future puppet master Sasori. At least Sasori made his entire body into a puppet, leaving only his heart. And if you look at it, you can't tell it's a puppet at all. On the other hand, Mirai just replaced some parts of his body with puppet materials. Although it is somewhat similar to a human puppet, it is not comparable to a human puppet. Kill! With a loud shout, Mirai exerted force at his feet and went straight to attack Dong Shenyao. At the same time, he did not forget to control his puppet to continue attacking Dong Shenyao. The puppet was faster, so it approached Dong Shenyao first. After Dong Shenyao avoided the hidden weapon issued by the puppet, He punched the puppet directly,